You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Honestly, I just couldn't be more excited about today. This is a huge day for IU basketball, a huge day for our athletic department, and certainly for our entire university and the whole university community nationwide. So certainly we had a national search, as you know. And we really deliberate with the process, stuck with the process, and it became clear that we found our person.
A dream job for anyone, but especially for someone that grew up in the Midwest watching the old Big 8 and Big 10 basketball. The chance to lead one of the biggest brands in college basketball was something I could not pass up. There are resources available here are some of the best in the entire country. We have a fan base that is passionate about the Hoosiers and provides a tremendous home court advantage. Everything is in place here for us to have the opportunity to win and to win at a high level. Now our job is to make that happen. I am so excited to get to work, and I know that it's where it all begins is with the work. It has to start and end there, because without that, you cannot have success. Resources certainly are a huge part of giving you those opportunities, but resources do not win games. Every fan base wants to win. You know, I want to win. We all want to win. So the passion is awesome. You want passion in a fan base. You want that. You thrive off that. Our players thrive off of that. So I love the fact that we have a passionate fan base. I think it's awesome.
That's Darren DeVries right there, the new head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, as he met with the media a little bit earlier today down in Bloomington. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, I would add that there's no doubt IU has a rabid fan base. You could go ahead and eliminate some of the jackasses. That would be great. But as a rabid fan base and one that is absolutely there, we know this to be true with IU basketball. They are going to have the funding, and they are going to give you every single resource to make it happen, and then it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to you to pick the right players. It's going to be up to you to coach up those players and then to find that level of success. And if you don't want to be measured up to now the longer-term past in Bloomington, that is not a gig for you. If you're thinking more about where they are right now and not trying to, as I bring up all the time, stir the echoes of the past, then that's not going to be the gig for you. And I thought Greg McDermott, one of the coaches that Darren DeVries worked under or on the bench with for so many years, along with Dana Altman, I thought Greg McDermott said, now you're going to get a taste of what life is like in a pressure cooker, and he's absolutely right about that. A lot of you are asking me this, so where was he as far as the hierarchy in this process was concerned? As according to Scott Dolson, he had hard targeted it the entire time. Really, you're never going to know. But you also know this, that they were going to swing incredibly big. And they did. I don't know if it went down the line to the pecking order to the guy, for example, how some have put it, that finally accepted. But certainly they were going for a grand slam home run right there. And I'm not suggesting he is not going to be that for them. But a lot of people are asking, all right, where was he? Was that the target all along? And I don't know what you would expect the athletic director to suggest. Of course, he is going to say that. But you and we can knock around whether or not that is the case. I mean, really, all this stuff is such just mammoth BS until they put together the product on the floor. And in really an ever-changing environment. And this is an environment not built for everybody, too. As you have seen, some of the more accomplished coaches said, the hell with this, I'm getting the hell out of here. So this is not an environment. I'm not talking about IU in general here. I'm just talking about college basketball, college athletics. This is not an environment for everybody. This may no longer be your dream coaching gig, wherever it might be, because of all the stuff that you have to deal with. It'd be one thing if you just had to deal with jackasses. I mean, it's much easier to deal with jackasses than it is to deal with entitled kids with an entourage that come in and are making $1.5 million for a season, as a hired gun. You may have the talent, and we saw that a year ago. They had talented dudes, but that talent put together rarely, if ever, worked, and it cost them. It cost them participation in this tournament. It cost them a lot. There are so many different layers to this hire and a little bit more regarding Darren DeVries. He's the former head coach at Indiana State, and he's a part of the Phoenix Suns organization. Now, Greg Lansing is going to call in here. He's got a meeting, I think, here coming up in about 30 minutes. He's going to join us here in this first break. What's also interesting, I believe his late father, was a head coach for Darren DeVries when he was in high school in Iowa. Yeah, just saw that as well. NC State reached an agreement with Will Wade. Just out of curiosity, and listen, we can do this because we're Sports Talk Radio and we're stinking allowed to do it, but was anybody out there on the Will Wade train? I could see that working out fantastically for NC State. Like, he's got all the characteristics, and a lot of those that you really wouldn't embrace if you're about more than just winning games. But he's got all the characteristics to work at a very high level, once again, in college basketball, and especially the way that the backdrop, the landscape is nowadays. He's got all of it. You know how much you have? You have to be, I mentioned this, you do have to have some a-hole in you. Now, I'm not suggesting DeVries doesn't. I'm sure he does. I will say this. Sometimes that can be, monetary value aside, a difficult decision when you go to some place for one season and then talk just, 8 months ago about how great this is, or whatever it was, how great this is, and I can see me being here forever, and forever lasting about 9 months. And that's it. That can be tough for some, but for others, yeah, not so much. You're just kind of moving on to where you're going to get paid, where you're going. And in this case, you look at the history of IU, and the history still stands to where it is. It's the recent history that absolutely pales in comparison. And that's one of the major issues that Darren DeVries is going to have to get fixed, because the last thing that you want is another foreign out. That's going to be it. Then, like, a lot of people right now think this is more reflective on where the program is than anything else. Yeah, I would think if you go down that path once again for a third consecutive time, that would be a hard one to explain. We'll see, too, again, in this ever-changing world of getting players, gathering players, what he may or may not be able to do. To bring in, to flip, to retain if he feels it necessary. Yeah, we'll bring up Malik Renew, who is now in the transfer portal and made the University of Indiana mistake that others have made, including the former commissioner of the NBA, David Stern, of the past. Yeah, Gabe Cupps from yesterday, too. Hey, before I get to Greg Lansing, I do want to say this. Yesterday at the GOAT was absolutely outstanding. I have to thank everybody at the GOAT, Megan and the gang at the GOAT. Stop by there and enjoy every single moment, because that is such a choice location. Like, there are times when I go up off the Monon, for example, in Carmel, like, I'm such a hillbilly. I go, hey, well, I'm going to be up there for a second, hit a couple roundabouts, then go back to where I'm from. But I so realize why you live there. Holy crap. I could not get over it. Speaking of landscape, the landscape up there is outstanding. One whale of a job. I completely understand. I don't have a crossword to say about you up there. I completely understand why you would all want to live in and around that area in Carmel, because it is awesome, and the goat is fantastic. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Make sure you put together that bracket. $5,000 diamond is what you're playing for. Nobody else is going to give you that opportunity. MoyerFineJewelers.com. That is Diamond Madness long gone, and stick your bracket in there whenever you get the opportunity. Bowen a little bit later on. Noah Eagle's going to join us. Where is he? In Milwaukee, I believe, for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Noah Eagle joins us. Dusty May of Michigan a little bit later on. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. And what else am I missing here? Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody?
Jagger Jones at 5:30.
Jagger Jones at 5:30 right there. Yes, the proud grad of High Point University. Boilers in High Point. First round. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, a little bit more insight on somebody that would know on the hiring of Darren DeVries and where he has been and where he is going with this IU basketball program right now. With the Phoenix Suns organization, he is described as an analyst, which I believe in this era is also known as a scout. He is also a friend of mine, the former head coach of our Sycamores of Indiana State University. Greg Lansing joins us now. Hey, Greg, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing great. Just sitting out on the back patio looking at the sun and the mountains. So, JMV, you're invited anytime.
We got to be analyzing some stuff here, though, too. Put that on the agenda, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing better than Suns basketball.
Hey, by the way, yeah, no doubt. How are you doing with that before we jump to the situation here in Indiana? How's that going for you?
Just absolutely love it. It's an unbelievable organization. Obviously, Matt Ishby is the owner. He wants it to be the best organization in pro sports and started a new team. In the past, they haven't had a management team and a scouting team and stuff, so we're all new, a bunch of just awesome guys, good guys, former coaches, and I couldn't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity, and I just am really enjoying it.
Man, I'm glad, too. You sound like you're enjoying it, and that's a hell of a thing right there. You can absolutely
tell that.
Quality
of life's pretty good.
Hey, by the way, too, the state of Iowa has completely taken over here in the state of Indiana, and the latest entry would be somebody you know very well. You were talking to me at least 48 hours before this became official yesterday regarding this. Darren DeVries, Drake, former assistant with Greg McDermott a year ago in West Virginia, is the new IU head coach, but you know him even more in an even greater detail than that. Maybe a little bit about the coach and what his background has been until this point, Greg.
Yeah, no, I've known him since he was in high school, and he actually played for my dad in an all-star game, Iowa High School all-star game, and just one of the things I appreciate about the quality human being he is. Before my dad passed, he was just outstanding to him when Darren was at Drake. But he was a player at UNI when I was at Indiana State, and just a tough-nosed competitor, just solid, good player, but just a tough dude. You always knew he'd be a coach. And then he's been with the likes of a Dana Altman and a Greg McDermott. I mean, how can you not succeed? You know, he's done it the right way every place he's been. He works like crazy, surrounds himself with quality people, and IU had a home run, man. I couldn't be happier for him or IU.
He's Greg Lansing. He's in the Suns organization, kind enough to join us. A little breakdown of somebody he knows very well, and Darren DeVries, the new head coach down in Bloomington for the Indiana Hoosiers. And you mentioned him back in his playing days. What type of style does he play? For example, if you're an IU fan and all you've done is you've watched Drake in the past, maybe you watched a season at times of West Virginia, what is the offensive influence, expectationally speaking, here?
Well, I mean, coached against him at Drake, too. I mean, you know, and he had all those Northern Indiana kids. So he's strong recruiting in Indiana. But as a player, just very hard-nosed, knew how to play, high IQ, and a good, solid basketball player. And I think back in that day, it's just toughness and how he defended and ran the show as a point guard. And, you know, you be with a Dana Altman, you be with a Greg McDermott. I listened to some of his press conference, and he just keeps up with the times. He transforms. He shapes his teams with the type of kids he wants, and then they play the style that's best for them. Of course, he's going to recruit to his style of play, and he wants to play fast. I mean, they played fast when he was at Drake. They played fast when he was at West Virginia, and he knows as well as anybody. You want to be a really hard-nosed defensive team, get it out and run, but in a Big Ten, just like in the Valley, teams are going to take that away. So you got to be able to execute at a high level, and he's a detailed guy. He's a worker. I heard some of the things Coach Mack said about him, and that's it. But but he's perfect for Bloomington. He's a good human being. Wife's great. Got a great family. Good people, and I think it's a really good hire, and happy for Darren and everything that he's going to bring.
He is Greg Lansing with us on the Indy Moore Automotive Group hotline. A little bit of insight, certainly what you need regarding the new head coach down in Bloomington. Part of this deal, and you know this as well, you've got to put up with a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I think Greg McDermott, that being a pressure cooker, or welcome to the pressure cooker, personality-wise, detail-oriented person, able to deal with everything that this thing is going to throw at him, Greg.
Well, I mean, he's gonna find out real quick. I think he knows that going in. There's no question. But I think you can't describe, no matter what Coach Mack or anybody else says, and I think some of what's been said, just how difficult. I mean, great fans. Some of the best fans in the country, and I follow you and follow Greg Doyle, and just some of the things that maybe the student section he's even been like, and some of the fans. It's hey, everybody wants the community and the alumni to be super involved and take it personal and support and want it to win. But it's hard when you take it take it too far and nothing's good enough, and they're so critical of every little thing. And what I always say, I mean, I'm a coach's kid, is those coaches want to win. I mean, that is their life. They are sacrificing all day, every day, doing everything they can, working those kids like – are these kids taken care of with NIL? Absolutely, they're taken care of, but they really work. It is their life too. It's all day, every day. They have to deal with the academic side of things. They have to deal with the things that they do and the expectations they have. So it is really difficult. But as Darren knows, hey, that's all part of it. That's all part of it, and I know Darren's suited for it. He's a tough dude, and he's going to give it everything he's got. You couldn't find a better coach. So I just hope everybody gets on board and supports him 100%.
And Greg, we know this is a different era than it used to be, too, with the NIL influence, the transfer portal influence. You've got to be able to handle so many different things. And at least on the surface, as you describe it, he seems like somebody that's very well equipped to do just that.
Well, absolutely, because he's a good dude. I mean, I'm sure you'll have him on, and he'll be around. He's a guy that people will run into in town in Bloomington. He's engaging. He's a nice person, as is his family. And it's the NIL stuff's a little out of control. Hopefully, with what's coming up, they'll find a way to regulate it, whether they do it with contracts or whatever. But it is what it is, and it is part of it. And I don't know Darren had some heartstrings being pulled back. Not by another job in the Big Ten, but you look at Indiana, and they have as good as anybody in the country with facilities, fan base, reputation, and the NIL piece. So they have everything you want. So Darren is coming there to win Big Tens and national championships. I mean, that's why he chose Indiana.
So we've got everybody now from the state of Iowa here. I heard from in the last 48 hours. I'm going to talk to Chad a little bit later on in the show. I heard from you and Chad Buchanan, the entire McCaffrey family. I'm assuming he's going to be here too. Caitlin Clark is here, and now you got DeVries here. So I guess everybody ultimately is going to be here at some point from Iowa. Not a bad influence, huh?
You got a bunch of good college basketball coaches all over the country that are Iowa guys, and you gravitate towards, like, I spent 17 years on staff at Indiana State. It's a basketball state, and we're kind of smart when it comes to, hey, we want to play the best basketball we can in the best venues and be at the best places we can. So I think it's a good job. What the athletic director there has done, obviously with the football success and the success of the other sports, and now you got another winner coming in.
Greg Lansing's got to shuffle off to a meeting with the Phoenix Suns. Man, I'm really happy for you. You sound fantastic, and I know you're having a great time doing what you love to do in basketball. Let's stay in touch, and we'll see where this thing down in Bloomington goes, man. I appreciate your insight.
Oh, man, I'm always listening, JMV, and appreciate you. And really, you beat those drums. Darren, you got a quality human being and a hell of a basketball coach, and I look forward to great things out of him.
You got it. Hey, Greg, thank you very much, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
It's Greg Lansing on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is an analyst, scouting analyst, whatever you want to describe it to be, for the Phoenix Suns organization out in Phoenix right now. With us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, Darren DeVries, the new head coach of IU, met with the media a little bit earlier today. Some of that sound we'll get to you. We got a lot more for you as well. I had mentioned in the state of Iowa, there's also a connection with Pacer General Manager Chad Buchanan. They know one another because I think everybody in Iowa knows one another, apparently. And we'll talk to Chad not only about that, but the Pacers later on tonight against the Mavericks. And I do want to talk about the bench effort, what they got out of some guys that maybe we didn't think could do what they did on Monday night in Minneapolis. Chad Buchanan's on the show a little bit later on. Bowen's on the show a little bit later on. Should have Dusty May drop in here, the head coach in Michigan, coming up a little bit later on as well. It is a loaded show, stuff to give away, Cyndi Lauper tickets and Outlaw Music Festival tickets as well, still to come. Tournament's underway tomorrow. Remember, MoyerFineJewelers.com. Get your bracket in. $5,000 diamond is what we're playing for here. That is Diamond Madness with Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. That's MoyerFineJewelers.com. Make sure you get signed up today. Let me take a break and come back. Very busy afternoon for you, getting you set. Final first four games tonight in Dayton. And then, of course, the madness is officially underway tomorrow. 239-1070 is the number. Email address is jmv at 1075thefan.com. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, the stream, the app, and your thoughts on Darren DeVries, the new head coach in Bloomington for the Indiana Hoosiers. That and more coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
And the beat goes on, yeah. And the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Greg Lansing, his late father coached up Darren DeVries. While in high school in Iowa, Darren DeVries is the new head coach down in Bloomington. Met with the media earlier today. Another Iowan, I believe that's how you state that. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, on that, his knowledge of DeVries and obviously the Mavericks and the Pacers tonight at the Fieldhouse. I do want to double back to Monday night as well with Chad regarding the incredible bench play that he saw with this Pacers squad in their overtime win over the Timberwolves that had won 8 straight going into that game. It was one of the more amazing Pacer games we have seen in forever. Chad joins us coming up at about 4:15 today. Jagger Jones is a driver. Jagger Jones is the grandson of Parnelli Jones, the 63 winner, legendary winner of the Indy 500. He is a High Point grad. He will join us coming up a little bit later on. Dusty May, I believe, out in Denver, will join us coming up to the head coach of Michigan. And Noah Eagles got the call in the first and second rounds in Milwaukee. Noah is on the show a little bit later on. But right now, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's one of our favorites, the former Boilermaker guard, with his always knowledgeable breakdown of the Boilers going into tomorrow in that first-round matchup with High Point. Chris Kramer is with us. Hey, Chris, good afternoon, man. Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, absolutely, man. Always willing to jump on, so I appreciate it.
Well, I'm in constant need of knowledge because I don't carry around too much of that with me on a daily basis. So I'm going to go to you. Have we seen any improvement or any belief to where you think things are different going into this matchup tomorrow with High Point than what we had witnessed oftentimes down the stretch of the regular season for your former team?
You know, I think it's a hard thing to say. I think some people talk about playing your best basketball at the end of the season. I think it's a little bit of kind of a cliche. I don't think it really matters. I think it's a game-to-game thing. The wheels can fall off, and then in one game you can figure things out and, start playing well again, and hopefully that's the case. I think that final stretch for Purdue, I think there was games that they got good shots, the ball doesn't go in. And then defensively, if you're not able to consistently get stops and not have breakdowns defensively that lead to easy baskets and dunks and all of those type of things, and you put yourself in a really tough position. Obviously, executing, not turning the basketball over and getting good shots is one thing, but the ball needs to go in. So I think they've done some really good things, but I want to see them get back to just the overall activity defensively, connectiveness, and, really just having each other's back, right? Like, I have the ball, I'm in front, or keeping the ball out of the middle. I don't want to get beat, but if I do get beat, I know that my teammate has my back and he's there to help. I think there needs to be that pride defensively, but knowing that if you do get beat, your teammates have your back.
It's Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guard on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. 12:40 tomorrow, True TV, for High Point, the 13 seed, and Purdue, the 4 seed. Give me some things, and I want to start with Fletcher Lawyer and his presence. I have said this before. I think if he goes either at or beyond offensive expectations, that Purdue's in good shape. Is he a legitimate gauge that you use as far as where this team might be from game to game?
Yeah, I think so. He's one that can, go for 25 and then, have 7 or 8 points some games, right? But, you kind of have to generate some offense for him. If you can generate some open threes and get him going, it kind of unlocks a little bit more for Purdue because, let's be honest, you don't know with some of the role players game to game what you're going to get offensively. So Fletch has been very consistent. But, when he plays well, Purdue normally wins. And, I know he got banged up a little bit. So, he said that there shouldn't be any hindrance. Hopefully he's not limited at all. So if he can get some good shots and get some real confidence, then it'd be a really good sign for Purdue.
How good this season has both Braden and Trey Kaufman-Renn been to you? Obviously, the accolades came in at the end of the season, but it has been a fantastic year for both. But, ultimately, Chris, what they want is this team and their success. And obviously, with that carrot on the horizon of a Sweet 16 here in Indy, you look at even past, for example, High Point with McNeese and Clemson. I mean, you play some of your best basketball this season, and that could become, I think, easily a reality.
No, 100%, And so Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden both played unbelievable this season. The amount of work and improvement that Trey Kaufman-Renn had from last season, the year previously to this, has been incredible, right? And a lot of that comes with opportunity and being the guy, not playing with or behind Zach Edey. But he's so efficient. You let him get to that left shoulder and get to that right hook, that push shot from that 10 to 15-foot distance. Like, those are bread and butters, almost automatic. And, he had some accolades, but I think personally he was an All-American. I think he kind of got shafted on that. And then Braden, obviously, the accolades continue to roll in. But the one thing I do understand and I do know about this team is they keep receipts. And hopefully, with everybody talking, everybody picking High Point, they're holding on to those, and they're going to come out with a vengeance, a 40-minute just dominant performance, let's say a la Michigan at home, and just prove everybody wrong. And hopefully that gets the ball really rolling, as they, go through this journey of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guard of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. That's a nice segue you're making right here for me, because I was going to ask about that. As a former player, and, you see basically everybody nationally going with what is their hot take of upsets in round number one being High Point over Purdue. As a player, how much motivation would that have given you, or maybe did that give you, and how much should that give them going into this game in Providence tomorrow?
I mean, I think you definitely have to take it, and it's definitely motivation. I mean, when I was a senior, that's when Robbie got hurt. We went from probably, I don't know, a top, 1 or 2 seed, like some of those, a seed in there, and we dropped immensely. And everybody was picking Siena to beat us, and I took that personal. So hopefully they do. But with taking things personal, there still has to be a level of handling the pressure that you're putting on yourself, right? If you internalize everything and you end up being a shell of yourself, you're not having fun, you're out there tentative, you're not playing instinctual, all of that is going to be a detriment to you. So you got to find that balance of letting loose and going out there and play, but still trying to have a little bit of that I'm going to prove you wrong mentality to go out there and just lay it on the line and, just right from the opening tip, assert your dominance.
Yeah, High Point is a team, by the way, Chris, that scores in high volume. I will say defensively they were a lot better within their conference, the Big South, but you would think defensively is certainly a point in which the Boilermakers can hit. What do you expect out of this game that tips off tomorrow in Providence at 12:40?
I think the biggest thing is defensively for Purdue, right? I heard Coach Painter talk, and High Point loves to drive the basketball, get it into the middle. They have an incredible percentage from 2. So the key to this victory, first off, is going to be keeping the ball out of the middle. Purdue always talks about kills, which is 3 stops in a row and all of those type of things. And basketball is a game of runs. They're not going to, shut out High Point or anything like that. But can Purdue get those kills, those 3 stops in a row, and score on the other side more often than High Point does that to Purdue. If Purdue can get stops, get good shots, rebound the basketball, and then obviously score while defending at a high level with that activity, that effort, that kind of play hard mentality, then I think they'll be just fine, and I think Purdue will win this game easily. But, I might be a little biased in my pick too.
That's okay. I think everybody out there understands that angle in which you come. Chris Kramer's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I did want to ask you this. There's nothing official, but obviously the rumors are floating around that Will Wade is going to become the next head coach of North Carolina State. And this probably is more common. We're just going to say that for the sake of what could be a second-round matchup. You have McNeese and you have Clemson. You think that affects the players? Stuff like that, or given the fact that your head coach is Will Wade and that's something you expect, maybe it's easier to disregard given the circumstances of that first-round matchup with Clemson?
I think it's kind of expected, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a free agency for anybody, right? And if your team plays well and, Will Wade's been incredible. He's had, high major D1 experience and with some of the allegations and things that have happened, went to McNeese and was an absolute juggernaut there. I think they lost like 2 or 3 games in conference or something like that. So, him getting this opportunity isn't, wild to anybody, but will it affect the players? I don't think so, because in the world of transfer portal, they're playing for their next contract potentially too, right? Like, if I play well in the NCAA tournament, could I take my $100,000 NIL and turn it into $500,000 NIL? Absolutely. Those are all things. So it's the professional part of basketball that is now turning into you're essentially praying for a new NIL deal at potentially the next place you go. So I don't think knowing that, they've agreed, but they haven't signed anything like that or signed anything yet, I don't think it's going to do anything for the players. They're going to go out there and try to show out for when they do hit the portal and people are, blowing their phone up trying to, give them the best deal they can, just like, Will Wade's going to get. But I think the same thing goes for Clemson because, their coach has been thrown out for some jobs, and he was with the IU job a little bit with his name being thrown around. And, I think it's all just an opportunity, right? I mean, if your coach is going to take a step to the higher level, and if you play well, he wants to bring you with him, then there's another opportunity there for, potentially a bigger NIL deal than you currently already have.
You can find him on social media, the platform X at C_K_3. It's the former Boilermaker guard Chris Kramer, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It's Purdue and High Point, Providence, Rhode Island, coming up at 12:40 on True TV tomorrow. And Chris is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It's always a pleasure. I'm assuming at some point, again, we'll get the opportunity to check in and find out what's going on. But we really, truly appreciate you being a part of the show, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Chris Kramer on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Dusty May, Noah Eagle, Pacer General Manager Chad Buchanan, Jagger Jones. Jagger Jones, I did not know this. Jagger Jones was a teammate of Jackson Lee, according to his father, Kevin Lee, of Trackside here. So Jagger Jones, we're going to bring him on because he's got obviously a racing connection around here. His grandfather, Parnelli Jones, his father, P.J. Jones, but he's a graduate of High Point University in North Carolina. Jagger's going to be here coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Stuff to give away. I would suggest you sit tight. Cindy Lauper tickets. We have the Outlaw Music Fest tickets to give away. Roadshow Friday. We're going to be at Brothers downtown for Bud Light and Mini Hoops Mania, the championship. Join us on Friday at Brothers downtown for the games as well. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Make sure you get in on Diamond Madness. Get your bracket in. Winner take all. $5,000 plus diamond up for grabs from Dan Moyer at Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. That's Diamond Madness, MoyerFineJewelers.com. Make sure you get your bracket in before the games begin coming up tomorrow. Quick break. We'll come back with you. Kevin Bowen, top of the hour as well. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Chris Kramer, podcast 1075thefan.com. Former Boilermaker guard Greg Lansing, former Indiana State coach. He is what they call an analyst. I think that is in terms of scouting, right, with the Phoenix Suns organization. His father coached up Darren DeVries back in high school, knows Darren very well, and broke down the hire, gave a little background, a little bit more than you've heard so far. And we talked to Greg a little bit earlier. That podcast at 1075thefan.com. Jagger Jones is a driver, a race driver, who's been out, I think, with the Indy Next Series, with the ARCA Series, the Menards ARCA Series. Jagger Jones, the grandson of Parnelli Jones, the son of P.J. Jones, is a High Point graduate. He joins us coming up toward the end of the show. We will do that again. Purdue and High Point tomorrow at 12:40. Actually, things officially get underway. This is one hell of an 8-9 matchup, is it not? Creighton and Louisville in Lexington. That is coming up tomorrow. That officially gets things underway at 12:15 tomorrow. Purdue and High Point, not so far after that. Tonight, the final two of the first four, Mount St. Mary's and American University. And then you guys got to watch this. I will, just for the sake of being an Indiana State grad, I think, and guy. Xavier in Texas, you're going to, what the hell has that got to do with Indiana State, numbnuts? Well, numbnuts will tell you that Ryan Conwell, guard from Pike High School, former Marion County Player of the Year, a year ago was outstanding with Indiana State. He scored 38 in the Big East semifinal, loss to Marquette for Xavier. He's playing for the Musketeers. And you have Jason Kent and Julian Larry, also a part of that Indiana State final game, gagging away a game to Seton Hall in the NIT at Henkel Fieldhouse a year ago. Not bitter at all. Those two play for the Texas Longhorns, so a little bit of interest with Indiana State fans coming up later on tonight. Maybe not. 9:10 is that scheduled start time. Xavier and Texas also at the UD Arena over in Dayton. Mavericks Pacers later on tonight. What did I tell you? Coming off of that incredible win on Monday in Minneapolis. Don't give this blank back. Don't give it back. And let me tell you this, tonight against Dallas, that's the type of game that the Pacers in the past have played down to. I mean, hell, you just saw it basically a week ago in Philadelphia, didn't it, for nearly a half? Philadelphia had everybody but my ass out there. And it was not a pretty first half. Don't give it back. I don't want to at all lose the good share from Monday night with a midweek drop in the toilet bowl against a Dallas Mavericks team that is really beyond repair right now, either decision-making wise or injury situation speaking. Don't give it back. 6:30 coverage begins tonight. That means we have anything goes for a little bit. Well, wonderful. Wonderful. All right, this hour, you guys ready? Noah Eagle's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, somewhere in between Noah Eagle and Kevin Bowen of the Fan Morning Show, who's going to join us coming up on the other side. Sit tight. Darren DeVries, more conversation there. If you missed it, Greg Lansing a little bit earlier, some insight on that, and more with Chad Buchanan coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. Keep it right here. Tickets to give away and a lot more for you. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Remember, mum is the word.
Suddenly, but
Mum.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Busy for you, Dusty May, Michigan head coach, 5 o'clock hour. Jagger Jones, driver, High Point University grad, 5 o'clock hour. Noah Eagles in Milwaukee, first and second round action. That's coming up on Friday from the Fiserv Center. Lipscomb and Iowa State. North Carolina and Ole Miss. You saw Carolina's act last night. Troy and Kentucky, and I believe to be determined either Xavier and Texas tonight and Illinois. We'll talk to Noah about that coming up at the bottom of this hour. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, also coming up here in just a bit. Meantime, at the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline for the morning show, that is with Kevin and James and Jeff. This morning it was Kevin and James. Kevin Bowen joins us. So, how about Darren DeVries? First thoughts compared to maybe what you think now after that introductory press conference a little bit earlier today in Bloomington.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's like some rah-rah press conference-y guy. I think if you actually, like, listen to his words, though, unless maybe, like, the energy level or the mannerisms, I think a lot of the things that you want to hear. The college basketball, and you have the conversation with Matt Painter quite often. I think it's so much about putting a puzzle together and not just throwing a bunch of pieces out there if they're the, 5-star, sexy, big price tag pieces. No, I think it's a little deeper than that, and I think he gets it. And he reminded us quite often, I thought, throughout the press conference of that. I actually thought if it wasn't Micah Shrewsbury at Notre Dame, I thought it was going to be him last offseason, or I guess 2 off seasons ago. So I was, kind of intrigued by the Drake background, and, there's probably a little bit of a misconception, at least I had, is I just figured Drake was kind of like whatever, not a Gonzaga, of course, mid-major, but a mid-major that had kind of been there, done that quite often, and really they hadn't at all before his arrival. So I think that's what stands out to you. There probably is still a bit of a surprise that, like, if you would have told me on February 8th they'd hire a coach that's been 1 year at a Power 5 and has never experienced Thursday or Friday of the NCAA tournament, like, I'd be stunned by that. So that part of his resume is kind of wild if you would have put, like, true serum in me a month ago. But at the same time, I don't think that means, like, he can't be a good coach or anything. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Let's just face it, they're not going to say anything, but you know that initially they were trying to swing as big as they could down there. What do you think he ultimately landed on the actual list?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to know how many no's they got. Is it kind of a little bit of a Louisville thing last year, even a Kentucky thing last year? I know Scott Dolson mentioned today the Bahamas experience. I think that was equally as horrific for Mike Woodson and IU's impression of him, but, also the intrigue was there. And I do remember that Miami Drake game from a couple of years ago when IU was opposite them in I think it was Albany maybe. I forget where it was, but, being impressed by Drake then. But, it sounded like Scott Olson said today that he was pretty impressed by Darren DeVries in that game. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I would assume that he was a bit far down the list. And, again, you probably weren't going to make any hire until after the season, unless it would have been some non-sitting college basketball coach. And, who knows? If their name's called in the tournament, does the hire happen? I would think you would have waited a handful of days, but, I mean, who knows how all this plays out? I think it's so crazy on how all these coaching searches unfold.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you get Will Wade, who's going to bounce to NC State, and his team's in it right now. I guess, you know what, Kev? This is the world in which we live. The players are doing – I told you the story before on the air and off the air. Dusty May, who joins us, the head coach of Michigan, when he was the Florida Atlantic coach, they were in New York City in the regionals, the semifinal and the final, and his kids were all getting calls and getting pitches when they're in their hotel rooms at that time. I mean, it is incredible. And I know that this has gone on forever. It's just almost like it is all okay now. There's zero decorum any longer, man. It is winner take all, go get it. And, oh, by the way, you got to win some games while all this jackassery is going on, too.
Yeah, I really feel for the mid-major programs, and I get it. I mean, there's probably an element that the mid-major programs are just doing it, a little bit lower, like they're getting whatever, a bunch of the D2 kids or however that you want to look at it. But like I saw Valpo, I think back-to-back years they've had the freshman of the year in the Horizon or in the Missouri Valley, and entered the portal right after the season. And look, I get it. I mean, you capitalize when you're hot. Probably professionally, we all do it to a degree. So. But it's just a bummer, I think, especially for those programs. I think, especially in the smaller town. I mean, you experienced this last year, John.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in a town where that's the pro sports team, if you will, I mean, it's that sort of attention level. There's something about kind of growing up with that group and watching it unfold and, seeing the runs happen, et cetera, and that now is missing. So I get why it's in place, and certainly coaches move as well. But I don't know. It feels like we're on a Texas freeway, and we need to be more on a just a little bit more of a speed limit. I'm not saying obviously eliminated,
yeah.
but just a couple little bit more rules and regulations to somewhat corral it.
What's funny about all this, that's exactly the reason why I believe guys like Will Wade and Chris Beard are perfect for these gigs in the present and in the long-term future. Because just like the Mike Damone quote, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping. They don't care. They just go about their business and continue to go and are hardcore, and they're accepting of it and will be lifers in this, where some of these other guys are going to end up like Jay Wright or Tony Bennett or even Nick Saban in football. Maybe not win at that particular level, but end up saying, you know what, this is such a pain in the ass, I'm done. And you just know guys like the aforementioned Beard and Wade will never, ever tire of any of this. And we're going to be living in this world for a long damn time.
Yeah, like I don't even know how you get in trouble for cheating anymore. Like what would you have to do to like
non-existent? Yeah, non-existent is cheating. You heard Danny Hurley on 60 Minutes. He got 50% of his team's getting recruited right now by other teams.
Sure, and I don't know how soon this happens, but I feel like, we're in the very near future. I feel like we could have a, again, super marquee player, even at a big Power 5 school where, whatever, they've had great program lore and you just assume it's a no-brainer that they return, and then boom, they, in a way, kind of we saw it, I guess, with like a Hunter Dickinson, like that sort of thing of like, wait, you're leaving Michigan, or, like Michigan you would view as, a huge deal. So, it's just it's wild, and I think unfortunately a bit of it can overshadow maybe what we kind of grew up loving about the sport.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Chad Buchanan this. We're like Iowa Southeast now. Is this everybody from Iowa going to join the state of Indiana in some form or fashion in athletics? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, it used to be the Colts.
Yeah.
Clark and Sanders and Angerer, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others there. So, yeah, you got everybody. Ames, Iowa City, and now I guess, wherever Drake is, and you had a McDermott here for a while. So, yeah, this is Iowa East.
Yeah, my guy Lansing, who I talked to a little bit earlier, his dad actually coached up DeVries when he was a high school player, pretty accomplished high school player, played at Northern Iowa. So interesting. So Kevin Bowen, morning show. He, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, weekday morning, 7 until 10 a.m. Kev's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Listen, I am going to be so pissed tomorrow if the Pacers give back all that euphoric joy that we celebrated after that Monday night overtime win in Minneapolis. And we know that this team has proven a point in the past where they're more than willing to do just that against teams that are down and out and should be easy to get past. What say you about this matchup with Dallas at the Fieldhouse tonight?
Gosh, it's almost a bit of a role reversal from Monday. Probably the next two nights, really, with how depleted Dallas and Brooklyn are. I would like to think the fact that Nesmith, Turner, we'll see about Halliburton and Siakam here in the next hour. I'd like to think that you could get guys that didn't play on Monday now back out there Wednesday, particularly starters, even Nembhard. I mean, to get tossed from the game and, Mather and fouling out. You would like to think that the urgency level outside of competing for home court would still be there, just because, again, it's really going to be a lot of new guys from, hell, you might not even play a lineup tonight that you played on Monday night. And Milwaukee keeps on, handing you opportunities, and their schedule, I think, is much tougher down the stretch. So, you would like to think now at you look at these final 15 games, anything, honestly, I think something like 10-5 would be very reasonable and maybe even baseline when you look at the amount of home games. I assume like even late in the year, Cleveland will probably be resting one of those 2 games that you play then because they'll have everything locked up. You know, you're catching an injury break with the Lakers, I assume, here soon. So, I think it's fair to have, again, controlling of business-type expectations for this team down the stretch. And even despite losing the head-to-head season series with Milwaukee, I think at this point you'd be disappointed if you didn't get the top 4 seed.
You and I are both thinking Houston when it's said and done here. I've seen all our predictions. It's Houston, it's Duke, 2 Michigan States, and Jake's the outlier with Auburn.
Yeah, I think I just filled out I said Houston. I rounded out with Maryland and Wisconsin in the Final 4.
Really? Were you drinking?
Well, yeah. No, I wasn't.
What, were you drinking Boone's Farm?
No, no, I was not. I don't know. I feel like Maryland and Wisconsin, they've got some good guard, big balance. I don't think this is like your older brother's Wisconsin. I actually think Wisconsin, maybe I've spent too much time watching them play in Mackey this year, but they were thoroughly impressive. Yeah, I mean, you got to do something different, right?
And unfortunately, I just think we're going to be incredibly chalky this year. I just do. Very chalky.
Yeah, and I get the bracket, and I'm like, okay, let's just go 1s and 2s. But then it's like, well, we've had a 7 or worse be in the Final 4, like 10 out of the last 11 years. So, where's that going to come from? And obviously predicting it is a lot harder now. So, yeah, I don't know. Having 2 Big Ten teams in the Final 4 is probably stupid of me. But, Houston, I thought they actually can shoot this year. I'm like, well, they seemingly make the Final 4 without the ability to shoot. So now that they can do that, maybe they'll make it through Indy here, and I would assume that would be a very rowdy Houston Cougar Alamo Dome if they made it all the way there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Kevin Bowen, the morning show, along with James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, tomorrow morning, 7 until 10 a.m. In fact, weekday mornings, Monday through Friday here on The Fan. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. My brother, I appreciate that more than you know. We'll do it again next week.
You are crowded today, John. I will talk to you.
You got it, buddy. Thank you. Speaking of that crowd, here's a part of it right now. I've taken him away from his duties as general manager of the Pacers. That's just what I do. I'm a bad influence. Chad Buchanan's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So what exactly have I taken you away from duty-wise that you would be doing other than talking to me right now?
That is kind of my part-time job, is talking to you, John.
Yes, exactly.
I'm out on the road doing a little scouting, so a lot of stuff going on this time of year, as you can imagine. But I'm at an NIT game tonight out on the road.
Yeah, you guys can't, I talked to Greg Lansing a little bit earlier on the show, and he was talking about, being at a couple of conference tournaments, and you guys can't mention a damn thing. You can tease us a little bit about what you're watching, but you just can't say who you're watching, right?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Let's just say there's a few games going on this time of year that we like to attend.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, everybody in the state of Indiana now involved in basketball has to be from the state of Iowa. You are one of those as well. Where do we start with your background knowledge here before we get to the Pacers that match up with Dallas tonight with Darren DeVries, the new head coach down in Bloomington?
Yeah, I've known Darren for a really long time. I remember him as a player at Northern Iowa, and then I coached against him for 1 year when I was assistant at Drake, and he was at Creighton. As a player, he was a very heady, tough-minded point guard. You could see future coach written all over him as you watched him and scouted him and played against him. And, comes from a, athletic family, great family. I think the world of Darren, and I knew at some point he was going to find a big-time job, and not that West Virginia isn't, but obviously Indiana is, one of the blue bloods of college basketball, and I have the utmost respect for Darren. I think he's going to do a terrific job down there in Bloomington.
Have you had an opportunity to speak with him at all here recently?
We exchanged texts yesterday, and as well as, throughout the season, I stay in touch with him and, follow his team, and, he follows the Pacers. And so we stay connected, pretty closely. And I've got several friends that I'm close with that have worked for Darren over the years. And it's a circle of Iowa basketball ties that we all stay kind of in touch with each other throughout the season.
It's Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. Mavericks Pacers later on tonight at the Fieldhouse. I'll get to that with him in just a second. But we'll tie a bow on this Darren DeVries conversation since he knows him as well as he does. I'm curious, you as a player, he as a player, who was better?
Definitely him. If you were to relate us to NBA players, he was probably a max contract, and I was a G League Exhibit 10 contract. So that's how I would compare our talents.
But I knew, and obviously his son has got a great level of talent too. And I saw that firsthand when I was over last year at Arch Madness and watching that guy tear my Sycamores a new one, unfortunately, in that championship game. I want to ask this as well. Historically speaking, you spent some time at Drake as well. He spent a lot of time there. I think for the most part, most seasons was a 20-plus game winner as head coach at Drake. What is that environment like, and what are the fans up there like with that basketball program? I guess, what is their signature at Drake?
Well, it's the only team in town, they call it, in Des Moines. And, it's a small campus. It's a lot like Butler, right in the heart of, right off of downtown Des Moines. And, they had some great history. They went to the Final Four way long time ago. And then the program was kind of in a tough spot. It couldn't generate any momentum. They didn't have their own facility on campus. Eventually they built, it's called the Knapp Center on campus. And then they just couldn't find maybe the right coach to get the momentum going. And then the AD there, Brian Harden, ended up hiring, Dr. Tom Davis out of retirement, and that's when I was on the staff, and it kind of generated some excitement around the program. And his son took over, Keno Davis, after Dr. Tom retired, and they had a terrific season at the NCAA tournament, lost on a horrific buzzer-beating shot against Western Kentucky. And then it, went through a couple coaches after that. Then when they hired Darren, there was a lot of excitement because he was an Iowa guy. Coming from a very, very successful program at Creighton, he'd worked for Dana Altman and Coach McDermott, two high-level coaches. I think there was a lot of excitement of what could it be, and he delivered. I mean, he delivered with terrific teams every season he was there. His teams played both sides of the ball. They were very disciplined, and it generated a lot of excitement around that program, and it's still carried through, with the new coach they have now, Ben McCollum, this season. Obviously, they're in the tournament. And so the fans in Des Moines are really behind that program. I think it can be traced back to Dr. Tom, but then Darren really took it to another level.
It's Chad Buchanan with us. That team that made it to the Final Four way back when, was there a player on it named Bill Hahn? Do you recognize that name?
Oh, boy, I don't know. There might have been, though.
Yeah, because I believe he was a part of that. He was for one season my coach. He's no longer with us. He was my coach my senior year in high school. And I think he coached, if memory serves, Dan Palambizio at Michigan City Rogers back in the 80s, who went on and played at Purdue. Mississinawa, I believe, he was a coach as well. He really won a lot of games. We didn't win a lot when he was our coach as a senior. He thought I was too fat.
I'll have to go check the VHS tapes of your video of your high school clips.
That's what he thought. Hey,
I know you're not now today. You don't qualify as fat today.
I'm telling you, I'm changing. I am turning back the clock right here and right now, buddy. So
I know you. I hear you're tearing off the rims at Southport High School.
Crazy. Yeah, they get mad over there. They don't like me to mention it anymore because I play so much over there and play so well over there. They don't want me to overshadow the program. So I get that. I understand. Hey, tell the fellas not to give anything back later on tonight because that was such an incredible win on Monday night, given the personnel that was available and how that game went down into overtime. And you don't want to give it back. Listen, I know that any team, any night, whatever, but tonight against Dallas, I just don't want to see them give that back because that was such a great night in Minneapolis Monday night.
I hear you on that. That was one of the most memorable wins I've ever experienced in the NBA for what our guys, to have so many guys down and you lose a couple guys in the course of the game. And, I know everybody talks about the last shot Obi made, but gosh, there were just he made some other shots that were huge buckets for us. TJ had a big bucket. Jarris had a big bucket. We got a couple stops at the end. Like there were so many great things that happened that night with the guys that contributed, even down to Tony Bradley and Enrique Freeman, contributing to that win. So that was a really feel-good win at time of year where guys could have just mailed it in, say, hey, we're down a bunch of guys. We're on the road. This team's won 8 in a row. They're healthy. And to our coaches' credit, all of our coaching staff, all of our players, they came to compete and came to fight. And we got up big, and then, they come back, and it could have easily been like, okay, this is what, tonight's going to be, and just mail it in and come home for a homestand. But so much credit and so much pride in the whole group of what they did on Monday night.
How much did you scout up Bradley before you ended up having him sign with the program here? How long did you take for that?
Well, we've seen him, throughout the years in college and in the NBA. He had a couple stops. And then, I credit our analytics staff, head by Spencer Anderson. He's been kind of pushing for Tony Bradley all season. Obviously we're looking for a center a couple times this year. And, Spencer and Brady Baker, our analytics staff, have really been, consistent. Like, hey, let's take a look at this guy. His numbers are really popping in the G League. So, for him to come in and do what he did, the other night, it's another feel-good story for him. And he stayed ready, and that's hard as a 10-day. You're coming in, you're joining everybody in the middle of the race, and you probably don't know everybody around in the locker room very well. And he's blended in very, very seamlessly and was ready when his name got called, and he produced. So super happy for Tony.
Chad, he looks like a piece that to me can be utilized. Given the shortcomings we know this team to have rebounding, and listen, this is not an original thought because others were saying it as well. In that game Monday night, I know it's just one game, whatever, but he was rebounding outside of his area. And that is not something you always see with this particular group, and that looks like a useful skill set that can be utilized here with some clock maybe down the stretch. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're spot on with that. He was doing that in the G League, and I think the one thing you can say about Tony is he can look himself in the mirror and know, here's the 2 things that I do well, and I'm going to stick to these 2 things because I know these 2 things can help a team, win on a given night. I'm not going to step outside my box and, try to shoot threes or play off the dribble or, demand post-ups, things like that. He screens, he moves the ball, he crashes the glass, he finishes plays that other people create for him, and he goes after the ball, on both sides of the glass, which is something this team has needed. And it was great to see it translate into a game, whether it's, translates into, more games. You never know. You never know when his opportunity will come. If Miles is healthy, he's probably not going to have much opportunity. But the other night he got it and took the full advantage of it.
Hey, my mom went absolutely crazy on Obi's night. Crazy. Screaming everything at me after the game. So.
Well, good for her staying up that late to watch that shooting display Obi gave her.
She does not miss a second for one, but she called right after the game and was screaming so much I had to hang up on her. I couldn't even understand what she was saying. And then she kind of settled down, and I called her back, and she goes, he's so nice. He's such a nice guy. I said, yeah, really nice that he puts up 34 like that and hits the game winner. That's really nice, too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had to feel good for Obi the other night. Yeah. That was a pretty incredible display of shooting down the stretch by him.
Yeah, he is I will say this. I mean, he is the perfect type of guy coming off the bench and the perfect type of guy for this team. Just blends so well and is legitimately a really nice guy. There's no doubt about that. All right, you're not in town today, right?
I'm not. I'm out on the road the next couple of days, so seeing some games.
You got it. We will.
I'm putting you in charge of getting us a win tonight.
Well, I'm there. So, yeah, just don't give it back because I'll get all pissy and have to cuss tomorrow. I don't want to do that. All right?
Hey, I hear you, but at 82 games, anything can happen on any given night. So
don't give me the 82-game stuff, man. This is stretch run here. Come on now. Come on.
I hear you.
Flex.
I hear you. Gotta be consistent. I hear you.
Hey, stay in touch, man. Safe travels on the road. We'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate it, John.
You got it. That is Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager right there on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So Dusty just texted me as we're talking 35 minutes from now because he's on Mountain Time. So let me send this. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I'm going to make sure he can. And then, obviously, to text, I can't talk and text. See, I can't do anything. 2 things at once are just forbidden for me. I'm either texting or talking. I can't do both at the same damn time, James. So I think Dusty's going to be good for coming up at 5 o'clock. Noah Eagle on the other side. He's got the first and second rounds at the Fiserv Center in Milwaukee. We'll talk about who that includes, at least one Big Ten team. We'll talk that up with Noah and really the rest of the tournament as well coming up bottom of the hour. Dusty May and a special guest, an alum from High Point University. Racing roots that are spectacular. More of an explanation, tickets to give away, so much more. Don't go anywhere. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Pay that man his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Shout out to the GOAT yesterday. The GOAT up in Carmel on the Monon was awesome. MoyerFineJewelers.com, a $5,000 diamond in value, actually in excess of $5,000. Winner take all for the bracket challenge. Diamond Madness at Moyer Fine Jewelers, MoyerFineJewelers.com. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, a little bit earlier, talked with us just actually moments ago about the new coaching hire in Bloomington because he's from Iowa and DeVries is from Iowa. It all makes sense. Greg Lansing, the former Indiana State coach, dad coach Darren DeVries in high school, and of course, Greg is now a member of the staff out in Phoenix with the Suns. We talked about the new coaching hire in Bloomington with both podcasts, 1075thefan.com. Michigan head coach Dusty May, staked out in Denver, is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, his location is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and his games, 4 in all, start coming up on Friday afternoon with Lipscomb and Iowa State, I do believe, from the Fiserv Center. I should say the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. Friend of the show, Noah Eagle, is with us. Hello, Noah. How are you?
JMV, what's going on, man? All is well. It is that time of year. The madness is fully upon us, and I feel like you can feel it. I just can hear it a little bit in your voice.
Can you hear my heart beating, buddy? Can you hear it through the microphone right here? I absolutely. See, people know me. I love basketball more than anything else. Yep. I still play all the time, even at 55. I played last night until 11 o'clock. I absolutely love it. And this time of year, and really no matter what's going on, right? You got all these outside influences, transfer portal, NIL, coaching changes, controversy, non-controversy. To me, it is all worth it because of the game of basketball that is going to be played. Obviously tonight in the second night of the first 4, but with you in Milwaukee coming up on Friday, the first of 4, that's pretty exciting.
No doubt. And we'll be glued to the TV tonight for the second game to see who our second 11 seed will be. We got North Carolina coming to Milwaukee after the win last night, and so Xavier and Texas will duke it out and see who can do the same.
Well, you know, I'm an Indiana State grad, and a year ago I was watching Ryan Conwell and Jason Kinn and Julian Larry play for my Sycamores, and now I'm going to watch them. I'm going to watch them match up against one another coming up at 9:10 from Dayton later on tonight. The one thing that stands out, and you can speak to this because it may end up being the matchup you get with Xavier. Ryan Conwell has had a fantastic season. We talked to him on Monday, had 38 in a semifinal Big East tournament loss to Marquette. He has, especially down the stretch, has been playing really well.
Yeah, I had that Big East game actually on Peacock. And, I mean, look, you know that I got to do the Sycamores last year early in the season.
Yes.
And Conwell, I mean, everybody wanted to talk about Robbie Avila, and rightfully so. I think a lot of people wanted to talk about Swope and kind of the improvements he had made through his career to then become a legitimate Division I player. But Conwell was the guy that always stuck out, the toughness, hard nose, you know, obviously an Indianapolis kid and represents the area very, very well. And when we talked to Sean Miller last week, he couldn't sing his praises enough. He said that he has been as much of a joy to coach as anybody he's ever had in his career. And it's because not just what he does on the court, but it's the fact that he shows up every day, even when they lose a game or he doesn't play well. And he's got a big smile on his face. He's just grateful to have the opportunity to play basketball every day, and his spirits raise the frequency of everybody else on that team. And if they can get past Texas tonight, that's a team I really look out for to make a legitimate run in the bracket once they get there.
Yeah, the dude is never satisfied, and I think kind of comes with the territory. He's the Marion County Player of the Year back in 2022 here out of Pike High School. Had a fantastic high school career, but some had told him that, you know, not even Division II and didn't really believe in him, and obviously he has believed in himself and has climbed that ladder and grown as a player. And I don't know how many 38-point offensive performances we have seen in Big East Conference tournament history, but that was electric in that semifinal loss to Marquette.
Yeah, it's not a lot, and you're going against one of the best defenses in the country. You know, Marquette, experienced, and they proved it. They came up with some big stops and some big steals and things of that nature, but it was on everybody not named Ryan Conwell in that game. It was 38 points the hard way. If you go back and watch the highlight, it was off the dribble, step back three, over a double team. It just everything he was putting up was falling. And then when he had to get in the lane, he did. And the really cool thing to me is when you look at the trajectory of a player, and I don't think that there's a better, I guess, indicator of what that would look like in the future than somebody who learns on the fly. And the first two matchups of the season against Marquette were easily Ryan Conwell's two worst games of the season in a Xavier uniform. And he made some major adjustments on the biggest stage, and he delivered.
At Noah Eagle, again, Milwaukee, the series, the 4 games, in fact, first and second round in Milwaukee coming up, those 4 coming up on Friday. Lipscomb, I kind of put them on upset alert here, and obviously Iowa State's going to be missing a very important piece. How legit do you think that matchup is with Lipscomb you're going to get in game number 1?
Very, very legit. I think that a lot of these 3-4 teams tend to be that. It's the same with our other 3-4 team with Kentucky and Troy, but this Lipscomb team is highly experienced. I think you see that a lot of times with the mid-majors, but it's seniors, and especially for them with the ASUN Player of the Year in Jacob Ognasovic. This is a kid who a year ago was anticipated to have that type of year, and the night before the season opener had a season-ending knee injury. So they miss him for the entirety of the season. He has to sit and wait his turn, essentially. And all he does is come back healthy and average 20.1 points per game and 8.1 rebounds on a highly efficient 57% from the floor. And this kid is a legitimate bucket getter. If you watch at all of the ASUN tournament championship game, he is making fadeaway, tough off the dribble, late shot clock type shots. And if you have a scorer of that caliber who can make difficult shots paired with a really experienced trio of guards who can shoot the ball at a very high clip with Joe Anderson and Jossie Powell and Will Pruitt. I mean, these are guys who have been in wars through the course of their entire career. And you mentioned it for Iowa State. I mean, this is an Iowa State team that before the year, I think a lot of people were talking about as a Final Four contender, and they got off to that type of start and looked every bit the part. But injury bug is real, especially this time of year. And when you lose somebody at the caliber of Keyshawn Gilbert, who I saw earlier in his career at UNLV, really smart, really tough guard, can go get his own, but more specifically, he's the leader, and he gets everybody kind of shuffled in the right direction. So you don't have him now. Now somebody else has to step up, which they have with Curtis Jones, who was an outstanding player this year. He's the 2025 Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year and an honorable mention All-American. That's great, but you're taking him now out of that six-man position, putting him in the starting lineup, and you lose that depth for a team all season that only played 8 players as is. So now you're down to 7. If one guy gets into foul trouble, you're going up against a highly experienced team on the other side. It has a chance to be a great matchup, I believe.
It's Noah Eagle in Milwaukee, first and second round matchups of the NCAA tournament. So you watched Carolina last night, and I can't imagine they're going to go with all makes in this game, kind of like they did last night against San Diego State. Carolina and Ole Miss on the surface with the old eyeball test looks like, especially the way Carolina played last night, looks like a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, it sure does. And give Ole Miss a ton of credit, give Chris Beard a ton of credit. Anywhere he goes, he wins games. He just gets the most out of his teams. And that's the case this year with the Rebels, a program that, while they've had some decent teams in the past, I mean, you know it, they're not known for their high-octane basketball program. But he's put together a really strong group. Sean Padula came over from Virginia Tech and really just did what he did, shoot the ball exceptionally well, score the basketball when they needed it. They've got 6 guys that average double figures. So that's when you look at a tournament team, do you have a multitude of options? And Ole Miss certainly has that. But here's what I'll say about Carolina, and it's the same thing I feel about Xavier or Texas, realistically, whoever gets through, but specifically Xavier. I think Xavier and Carolina are in very similar boats, where they didn't get off to the starts that they needed to this season. And for Carolina, they had an extremely challenging non-conference slate. They played one of the toughest and strongest schedules in the country this year, but they didn't take care of business. I believe they were 8-6 to start the year. And for Xavier, it just took a little while with all the transfers coming in to find the chemistry and for Sean Miller to really identify roles. And then you had, similar to what I talked about with Lipscomb, a guy who missed the entire year last year, who's arguably their first or second best player in Zach Fremantle, miss a month early in the season. And so it was disjointed. And for both teams, they get off to the sluggish start. So now over the last month of the season, maybe month plus, both of them have basically had to play what has been postseason basketball for an extended period of time. They've had to win games consistently. And Xavier ended the season on a 7-game win streak, similar for Carolina going into the ACC tournament. And so they had some momentum despite their losses early in their postseason tournaments in their conference. But here they are now at the 11th seed in the first 4. And we see this every single year with big-time programs in particular, where they get in, squeak in, and then you play a game, so you get a little bit of a rhythm in another postseason atmosphere. But because you've been playing postseason basketball, essentially postseason basketball, for a month plus, you're already in that mindset. And so now you've got some momentum going into this. And that's what I would be afraid of if I'm Ole Miss and Illinois this week. You've got two teams that are going to be having just as much confidence as possible at that seed. And that's always a dangerous act to try to play.
Yeah, no, I want to mention this for the Kentucky fans that may be listening. Obviously their matchup, the 3-seed Kentucky and the 14-seed Troy at 7-10 in Milwaukee coming up on Friday evening. What's interesting about this to me is Troy is a team that may be rather pedestrian in scoring the basketball in terms of the landscape of college basketball, but not at all when they go to get it. So they may miss it, but this is a team that will go get a second or third opportunity. At least they've done that in their history this season.
Yeah, and similarly to the other teams I just discussed, a slow start to the season in non-conference, but it wasn't like they were getting blown out. They were playing high-level teams close. So close loss to Arkansas, close loss to Oregon, a fairly close loss, all things considered, to Houston. All those are on the road. So they've been battle-tested to a certain degree in difficult environments. And they've got a Sun Belt Player of the Year in Peyton Conaway who, I think now we look at, okay, how experienced are these guys at this level? I mean, this is somebody who played 3 years of junior college basketball. So postseason type of vibes, he's gotten those. Now he comes over to Troy and he's delivered. He can score and he can get his teammates involved. And I think that's what their secret sauce is. They've had a guy in the middle in Thomas Dowd who's really come on strong late in the season. And so for Kentucky, who's dealing with injuries for themselves, Lamont Butler, he's going to play, and he is a massive piece for what they do. And obviously, he's got great tournament experience from 2 years ago, hitting a game winner in the Final Four. But they need him to be as close to 100% as possible to go and be at their best. Otega always had just a sensational season, but is he going to continue that after a really disappointing performance against Alabama, who, unlike what you just mentioned with Troy, is not necessarily the strongest defense in this country? They obviously put up a ton of points, but they've been known to give up some major numbers on the other side through the last couple of years here. So I'll be curious with Kentucky because there's a lot of pressure. I know it's a completely different coaching staff, obviously, than the last couple of years, but there's still a stain within the program from the way that they've lost the last 2 years. And for the third consecutive year now as a 3-seed, are they going to go out early to a potential Cinderella? And that's got to at least be on the mind of these guys.
Yeah, he is no eagle with us in Milwaukee, and again, awaiting Xavier, Texas that winner for Illinois, and you'll find out which Illinois team actually shows up late on Friday night right there. I did want to ask you, because you spent so much time doing Big Ten games this year, Darren DeVries is the new head coach down in Bloomington for the Hoosiers. Your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I just never think you can go wrong choosing a winner. I mean, this guy's clearly that. What he did at Drake was fantastic. 3 NCAA tournament appearances in 4 years. That's not a simple conference to continue to win. There are good teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, as you know. I mean, last year, the fact that they found their way through, considering what was on the other side with Indiana State, I mean, I think everybody expected Indiana State to be the runaway champion of that conference, at least in the conference tournament, and they just didn't do it because Drake was a winning program. And he sustained a winning program that obviously continued into this year as well, and I think a lot of people expect now to potentially win their first-round matchup as an 11 seed this year. Well, remains to be seen, obviously, this week. I just don't think you can go wrong with a winner. He's a grinder. He's known as somebody who works extra, and I think that's what Indiana needed. Mike Woodson obviously was a different type of hire. Nostalgia was there. Star in the name and star power type is there. The recruitment aspect of what he could bring to Indiana. Totally get all of that. And obviously they had a great finish to the season, and many believe they probably could have gotten into the tournament or deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. but it's just a different vibe. And this is, I think, something that was needed in Bloomington. I'll be very curious. His son is an outstanding player, expected to go with him. That's a great starting point to have. And so now you have to look for what the other identity of what the type of player you're going to recruit. Because, as you know, as anybody in the state knows, there's no bounds to what Indiana can be if it's run the right way. And I think as long as he stays true to who he is as a coach and his identity of a team, that'll be the case wherever he goes. And for now, that's in Bloomington.
He knows Tyrese Halliburton is going to be watching at 1:30 coming up on Friday. There's no doubt about that. Lipscomb and Iowa State and Noah Eagles on the Indy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, have some great calls. We'll check back in with you. Thank you so much, as always, for the time that you have, and we'll do it again soon, Noah. Thank you.
You got it. Have a blast the next couple of weeks.
Can't wait.
Couple of weeks of the year, man.
You got it, man. See you, Noah.
See you.
Noah Eagle on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Dusty May expected coming on. He's doing a lot out there right now. I feel bad. I'm kind of like a blank to have him come on here with me at 5. But the head coach of Michigan, Dusty May, and Jagger Jones, racer, both with IndyCar, open wheel influence, and as a member in the past of the Menards ARCA series, so stock car influence, and High Point University influence. He is an alumni of High Point. And we'll talk with him coming up at the bottom of the hour. Tickets to give away, too. We do have anything goes opportunities for you. So I know we've been busy. We'll work in some calls coming up after 5. Dusty is good to go. 5 o'clock, the head coach of Michigan is going to join us live from Denver coming up here at the top of the hour. Sit tight. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, giving you all that is necessary in preparation for this tournament. Got to fill out that Diamond Madness bracket, MoyerFineJewelers.com. Details other side, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right. Cyndi Lauper tickets, everybody. Number 9 at 239-1070 is going to get the opportunity to go. Ruoff Music Center. Cyndi Lauper, which I have not checked on this. I think I've mentioned that throughout the course of the week, but I believe this to be maybe her final tour, if I've heard this accurately. A catalog of fantastic songs, Cyndi Lauper. And what is really, you look at, especially all the 80s bands that are out on the road. Hell, I saw The Church out on the road. Even if you go back to the 90s, there's one with, I think, Our Lady Peace and Collective Soul. And I know that Collective Soul seemingly out all the time. I think Live is the headliner for that. But I've rarely seen Canadian band Our Lady Peace. It seems like everybody is out on the road. And you can celebrate the catalog of Cyndi Lauper, especially if that throws you back to the decade of the 1980s. Number 9 at 239-1070 will go on us. Thank you very much, Live Nation. Long ago, and I have preached this aspect of the show to Kyle and the gang forever, to Live Nation, is that we cover everything. Doesn't matter what genre of music you're talking about. While you have to use specific music stations for a specific genre, we cover everything. Because the lovers of sports and sports conversation and content also deeply rooted love music. We'll continue to do that, and thank you, Live Nation, for always being a part of this, too. Again, Cyndi Lauper, number 9, 239-1070. Outlaw Music Fest tickets for that show in September, featuring Bob Dylan, Sheryl Crow, and Willie Nelson coming up before the end of the show. Jagger Jones, the driver from High Point University, at the bottom of the hour, but the head coach of Michigan, your Big Ten Conference Tournament champions, and getting set for the NCAA tournament. Dusty May is going to join us coming up next. Sit tight. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
What is the magic word, Mr. Venkman?
Please. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, a little bit earlier. Mavericks Pacers Fieldhouse tonight. Coverage begins at 6:30 right here after Anything Goes. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I'm going to hustle up here. I can't believe he is so awesome to come on here today because he's got a lot of work to do in Denver, getting set for a first-round matchup as the 5 seed against UC San Diego, the 12 seed. That is coming up tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. The head coach of Michigan is Dusty May. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hello, Dusty. How are you?
Good, John. What's going on?
Man, thank you for taking the time, man. I'll make it quick and very painless for you here because I know you've got like a zillion things to do. The first thing that occurred to me with that Big Ten tournament title that you guys took on Sunday, was it the practice that sent you down the path? Because it just seemed like that there was a much higher level of consistent play that maybe something you were searching for. And how much did that have to do with what we witnessed to the practice time that you got before that tournament?
Well, it certainly helped. I think we played 5 games in 14 days. And when you're in as many close games as we were in such a short stretch, I think our guys were probably just a little bit mentally and physically fatigued. Like every team in the Big Ten, we had some illness issues and whatnot. And then after the Michigan State game, we felt like we really competed in the second half and got back to our identity. And then we had some time to rest and just practice and get back to the fundamentals and just really recharge and regroup. And fortunately, our guys brought it that week and had a renewed focus and energy, and we found a way to go to Indianapolis still feeling good about ourselves despite dropping 3 in a row.
Oh, there was such shot-making ability in that tournament. There's no doubt about that, Dusty. But where do you start with the thing that you were most impressed by as far as your team putting together that run to the title as they did this past weekend here?
Well, the first and third game, we were able to take care of the basketball much better than we have most of the season. And then the middle game against Maryland, we were able to completely dominate the glass. So we've just been a team that's had to find a different way each and every night, and that's what happened to happen for 3 straight games.
Yeah, it is, too. You talk about you go from a grind of a regular season, and then you practice a little bit, and you go back into a grinder. Did you think on Sunday that maybe were there tired legs at all involved? Could you gauge that, or was it more just about 2 teams really buckling down defensively from what you saw?
I think it was a combination of both. I thought early on both teams generated some pretty good looks. There were some late contests, but for the most part, both teams were open and they just weren't going down. And so it's hard to explain. Some nights the ball just doesn't go in, but it was 2 teams that had played 3 and then 4 games in 4 days and were physically I guess just bodies on bodies, and both teams wanted to win so bad that the level of intensity felt like an NCAA tournament, late type of game.
Does that better prepare your team for what they're about to take part in coming up in Denver against San Diego, or does that help with the wear? How do you know what you think you're going to get, especially in the elevation of Denver coming up tomorrow night?
Well, fortunately, we're not coming out here to play Colorado or Denver, that team that's acclimated to it.
Right.
Both teams are going to have the same adversity as far as the oxygen levels. So we're not talking about too much. Obviously, the guys are going to feel it. They're going to notice it, but we're just trying to normalize it, that's normal, and one team's going to decide to push through it, and the other one may not be able to. So just try to be the mentally tougher team, and but we're just excited to be back here playing. We just can't lose our edge. We went into the Big Ten tournament determined to play with aggression, with physicality, and sometimes when you win and then you celebrate, sometimes you lose a little bit of that edge. So we're very conscious to make sure that we still play just as hard. And luckily, a lot of the prognosticators have given us a little bit of gas to put on the fire as far as that being a very popular upset pick.
Hey, Dust, man, you and Matt both have a lot of gas to put on the fire, I think, right now, too. I was going to ask you that. How much, do you say, hey, thanks a lot, right, for a little bit more motivation than I guess, you got enough the way that it is, but still.
I would much rather have it that way, John. I would much, I'd turn on the TV. We're down in the film room and we finish film and we turn the TV on, or we're down there having a meal and everyone's on TV talking about how this is going to be the upset and whatnot. So, Yeah, I mean, it definitely it gives us a little bit more juice.
Yeah, it's Dusty May, the head coach of Michigan. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So a little bit of your knowledge, pass it along to us about what you're going to see in San Diego and Denver.
Well, San Diego, they play a really unique style where defensively they switch, they play zone, they go zone to man. And they're extremely aggressive going for the basketball. I don't know if in recent memory, I can remember a team being as handsy and get as many deflections and steals as they do. They could, if you turn your head, the help defenders coming from out of it, they're not afraid of putting two on the ball. They're not afraid of being in rotations. They just play the basketball so well. And so you're going to have opportunities, but if you get sped up and you try to play too fast, they turn you over. And then on the other side of the ball, half their shots are three-pointers, and typically that's how smaller league teams upset the Power Five. So we've got to defend the three-point line well, but they're a good basketball team. They're old. They've got a unique group that they have several shooters, and then they have an elite one-on-one player who can score in the post and drive bigger guys and play. And so they present a number of problems.
It's interesting. They haven't lost since January. And, one of those losses, I guess, at the change of the calendar, they got to avenge in UC Irvine in the conference tournament. So this team has been prepped and done a lot of winning here in the past 2 months.
They have, and that Irvine team has had kind of a stranglehold on that league for a while. And for UCSD to come in the first year of Division I eligibility and play the way they have is impressive. But like I said, they have a group that's been together. They were able to retain some guys off of a second-place team to come back and try to do it again. So it's a credit to their culture and their staff and their players. But it's going to be a tough game. There's a reason so many people are picking them. They're really, really good.
That's Michigan head coach Dusty May on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Not that it matters now because it doesn't. Now you go out and play, but were you okay, not okay with the seed that you saw that you had on Selection Sunday?
I'll just say I was surprised. Even before we won the last two games, I thought we were pretty much locked into a 4 seed. We had double-digit quad 1 wins. Our metrics they had dropped some late in the season, especially as we lost 2 games by big margins, and we didn't blow anyone out for about the last 6 weeks of the season. Every game was close. We won several games, 1 or 2 possessions. So, when you don't ever blow anyone out, the expected point differential is different than what you end up winning by. It lowers your metrics every time. So winning is not enough when you start out the season well. So, you can't really control that. But we did manage to win the games, finish tied for second in the Big Ten, and then win the Big Ten tournament. So we certainly felt like 5 was a little bit low when you take a step back. But I thought UCSD was seated extremely low at 12th when you look at their metrics and the success they've had.
Do you Yeah, man, how much do you look at metrics, by the way, as opposed to the eyeball test?
Yeah, both. We look at both daily. It's part of it. And when we schedule, there's certain criteria that, we especially the money games, we choose opponents based on metrics, certain criteria, the analytics of, what can put us in the best position to be getting an at-large if we don't win the conference tournament. So, yeah, it's a daily thing we look at throughout the year, not just during the season.
Yeah, outside of final score, what's most important to the success of your team?
You know what? We're kind of a statistical anomaly.
Cool.
We won over 70% of our games in the league and got outscored as far as total points. Yeah. Turnovers have been our Achilles heel. When we take care of the basketball, we're really, really good. We haven't shot it as well the last half of the season. The first half of the season, we were top 20 in the country. In the last half, we were bottom 20 in the country. So we're just an odd group that almost goes into every single game not knowing how we're going to win, but knowing that we've got to find a different way.
He is Dusty May with us. How high volume three-point shooting-wise is San Diego compared to other teams you have seen?
They're one of the highest volume three-point shooting teams out there. They have at least 4 shooters on the floor at all times, and they know how to find each other, and they play really, really well off of each other.
I did want to ask you this before I let you go. Do you think because the Big Ten tournament championship game is so late and so close to the start of Selection Sunday that there's really enough emphasis given to those that win that title like you guys did Sunday?
Obviously not, John. I would say the bracket's almost completely done by the time Sunday comes around, or even Saturday. But the way we look at it, seeding aside, it's a tournament, it's a Big Ten, it's a chance to hang a banner, it's a chance to win a real championship as a group. And so those are the most important things. If it helps our seeding, great. If it doesn't, we're not gonna sit here and cry about that.
Yeah, so much familiarity, and obviously your home state. How special was it to bring home that championship? You're number one in Ann Arbor, and do it in the state of Indiana in Indy last weekend.
It was nice because we had a lot of family and friends there. But to be honest, when you're in the fight, you don't really think about all that stuff. It just comes at you so fast, especially in a tournament setting where you're going from one game. We played, we get back to the hotel at 11:30 at night or midnight, whatever it was, and then we have a game the next day, the next afternoon, and then another game that afternoon following that. So you don't really have time to reflect on any of that. I'm sure in hindsight, and after the season and a few years from now, you look back and, you read about it and think about all the people that are there. So it was cool, obviously, being back home. But the most important thing was just that group doing something special together.
Man, they threw a lot of gear on you after that game, too, man. You got all that. You had like 19 different shirts and hats on. That was very unique.
Yeah, it was a lot different where at this level, you're hitting the different media platforms. You don't even really have a chance to celebrate with friends and family or even your team. You just got to keep it moving. But that's all part of it, and we're grateful for the coverage.
Well, we're going to keep it moving right here. Incredibly proud of you. You know that. That was awesome this past weekend, and continued success. Go out there and get it done. And we'll catch up here relatively soon once again, buddy. And best of luck to you.
I appreciate it, John.
You got it. Dusty May, the head coach of Michigan, with time for us right there on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He's got a ton going on, so I did want to make that quicker than usual. Pretty awesome. Pretty damn awesome right there. Yeah, the whole dynamic to me is interesting as far as, you get the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship, and it rubs right up against Selection Sunday show, how much you really get out of it. But what you do is you wipe it clean and you go after San Diego coming up tomorrow night. That's at the Ball Arena in Denver. I was also curious about the whole elevation thing. You'd mentioned, we're not playing Colorado or Colorado State, so we're not playing a team that is used to playing in the elevation. So it's kind of even on every single side. So that part's understanding. You don't even want to, in that position, to give the thought of, hey, I'm tired in the elevation, blah, blah, blah. You just try to keep that outside the mind of your players. Completely get that. Dusty May, head coach of Michigan. San Diego is their first round 5-12 matchup coming up tomorrow night. And obviously, we shall be watching. That is your Big Ten Tournament Championship. All right, I do have some time before we get to Jagger Jones here at the bottom of the hour. It has been a busy day so far. Let me recap. I don't know this because we're in a shoebox. We have no windows. Is it storming out there right now? Because I know that we had on the inbound, somebody had mentioned jacket off weather with Chris Wright. And I don't know if we're a part of that right now. Is it okay out there right now, or we got weather happening?
According to my phone, right now it's cloudy, but it looks like we have some thunderstorms coming at us here in the next hour or two.
Next hour or two. So logically, when we're off the air, that's when these storms are on the inbound. So Kevin sent me this. JMV, we're going to have to pay attention to Chris Wright later on tonight in his jacket off forecast, I believe. Great show as always. Thank you. Yes, that is going to be happening coming up later on tonight, for sure. And actually, as James mentioned, probably coming up in the next 2 hours. And I will echo what everybody else says, especially those weather folks here in the market that we like so much. Be weather aware, because you never know, especially this time of year. When you have warm temps and you get a front that passes, you know that the storms are going to occur. So we will keep you updated at least while we are on the air. I will also mention this, a little anything goes coming up at the top of the hour. You got the Mavericks and the Pacers at the Fieldhouse. That tip time's at 7 as the Pacers try to continue what was a fantastic Monday and getting that win in Minneapolis with the personnel that was available. The injury situation is much better going into tonight than it was back on Monday night. However, I think we all understand this. It was outstanding to see the team respond with the personnel available the way that they did. And as Chad Buchanan mentioned a little bit earlier, not a lot of games will resonate longer term in the regular season in March like that one will. For those involved with the Pacers and for those Pacers fans. That will be long lasting. And as I mentioned too, don't go down there tonight and take it away by playing to the level. I know any given night and all that bull crap or whatever. But this is a team, and I'm assuming much like Minnesota thought in the second of a back-to-back on Monday, but much like they thought, this is a team that is wounded, and when you get them at home, you got to take advantage of it. But we've seen the Pacers play down, consistently play down to competition in the past. You don't want to give this thing back coming up later on tonight to a Dallas team that is personnel-wise certainly down from when they were at their best, either through trades or through injuries. This is one that you got to get. If you want to call it must win, must win. I'm just saying must win from the circumstance of putting yourself in continued position to track down the 4 seed. Milwaukee's got to go out west. They hold the tie break, but you have opportunities coming up here in the not-so-distant future to take full advantage of it. And gagging one up against the Mavericks at home tonight after the goodwill that was built in that win over Minnesota on Monday would send out, as they say, all the wrong vibes. Don't do it. Got to come out there with a kick-ass mentality, especially playing off of that win going back on Monday night. 6:30 coverage begins with the pregame show and Pat Boylan right here on The Fan. That tip time is at 7 o'clock. That's why we have a little bit of anything goes going on at 6 o'clock tonight. Darren DeVries is the new head coach of the Indiana Hoosier basketball program. We have discussed that. I'm assuming some of you have thoughts on it. We can certainly go that direction if you like. Not so much so far because we've been busy. Greg Lansing joined us, former Indiana State coach. He's in the Suns organization as an analyst. He knows DeVries very well. His father, late father, coached him up back in high school in Iowa. He gave his thoughts on the IU hire a little bit earlier. Chris Kramer, former Boilermaker guard, High Point and Purdue coming up at 12:40 tomorrow. And Chris Kramer joined us to discuss that matchup a little bit earlier as well. Kevin Bowen of the morning show, he and James Boyd and Jeff Rickard, weekday morning, 7 until 10 a.m. He joined us at the 4 o'clock hour, as did Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. Grew up in Iowa, knows Darren DeVries very well. We discussed that in the Pacer matchup with the Mavericks. And going back to Monday night against Minnesota with Chad as well. Noah Eagle has the calls coming up 4 games on Friday in Milwaukee in the NCAA tournament. Noah Eagle joined us a little bit earlier, too, and as mentioned just now, Dusty May, the head coach of Michigan, the Big Ten Conference tournament champions. They start out coming up tomorrow night in Denver. They get San Diego in a 5-12 matchup. Dusty May and everybody else today, podcast 1075thefan.com. Also, this reminder, MoyerFineJewelers.com. Before tomorrow's games are underway, make sure you sign up. Winner take all, $5,000 plus diamond, I should say. I almost said ring, but just diamond is what you're going to get. Again, in excess of $5,000. Winner take all. That is called Diamond Madness. Get your tournament bracket in, MoyerFineJewelers.com, and the winner will receive that diamond from Moyer Fine Jewelers. The value over $5,000. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Do that. And by the way, thank you to Dan and everybody else for being a part of the show yesterday and putting us at the GOAT on the Monon in Carmel. I don't know how anybody that lives in and around the GOAT, or if you live in Carmel around the Monon, how do you get anything done? I can absolutely understand why you live where you do. Holy crap. There is like everything going on at every moment. It's like sensory overload. My first time at the GOAT, and we will go back because that was absolutely outstanding. Yesterday's show, and it was great to see everybody that showed up out there as well. My good friend Dan Huber and Matt from the Colts was out there yesterday. We had Jeff show up from Trades and Wealth, and Michelle, new friend of the show that listens every day and has been to a couple of live events as well. We've had a ton of people. Jason Hatfield and others showing up. J-Law was there. Damon was there. If you stopped by and you introduced yourself, especially as a part of the show, thank you very much, and do it again. Downtown, Brothers with Bud Light. That is coming up on Friday. Mini Hoops Mania, the championship on Friday downtown at Brothers. There's another opportunity for you to join us. We'll watch some games, obviously, play some mini hoops, and have a good time at Brothers downtown coming up on Friday. All right, a connection with Purdue in their first-round matchup tomorrow with High Point. Got a couple of different drivers that would be noted alumni of High Point University. Austin Dillon being one. But you know the name. Father, P.J. Jones. Grandfather, the late, great Parnelli Jones. 1963 Indy 500 winner. As you know, our great friend Robin Miller, you could not speak more highly of anybody than R did of Parnelli Jones. And Jagger Jones graduated from High Point. Jagger Jones, former teammate of Jackson Lee, of course, Kevin Lee's son from Trackside here on the Fan, and as well of Fox IndyCar coverage. Jagger Jones, the driver, is going to join us coming up on the other side, a proud alum of High Point University. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere, too. Outlaw Festival music tickets we have to give away featuring Bob Dylan, Sheryl Crow, and Willie Nelson also before the end of the show. Stay right there. We'll keep you updated on the weather as well. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now, we are going to help keep you weather aware, so with that in mind, you're going to have to keep me weather aware. We don't have any stinking windows here. So let me know when it's jacket off weather. Let me know before Chris Wright tells you all about it if you're watching it, for example. A busy show. Dusty May, the head coach of Michigan, just on with us. Noah Eagle, of course, he's got NCAA tournament play-by-play duties in Milwaukee coming up beginning on Friday with those 4 games in Milwaukee on Friday afternoon and Friday evening. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. Greg Lansing, former Indiana State coach and Phoenix Suns scout. We talked about Darren DeVries and the hiring of IU for their next head coach with both of them. Kevin Bowen on the show, and Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guard, joined us a little bit earlier because at 12:40 tomorrow, we've got an interesting matchup in Providence, Rhode Island. We'll be following that. It is Purdue and High Point. And joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline is one of the esteemed alumni of High Point University. And you know the last name incredibly well, whether we're talking about his grandfather, Parnelli, or his father, PJ. It is Jagger Jones who joins us now. Hey, Jagger, thank you very much for joining us in Indy. How are you?
I'm very good. It's an exciting time to see High Point in the March Madness tournament for the first time ever. I just graduated there about a year ago, so they had to wait till I left to get in the tournament, but it's still exciting to watch now as an alumni.
That is awesome right there. How swept up are you with this? I mean, I know there's a lot going on in the racing world, Jagger, for you and all that right now, but how swept up are you in this game coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be tuning in. I know we've had some really good teams. I think the last 2 years I was there last year, and everyone thought it was, going to be the first time for our school to make the tournament. It didn't happen. So it was a bit unfortunate to see that my last year, but this year I've not watched all the games. I've been busy with my own racing stuff, but I definitely tune in and see how the team's doing. And I was excited. We won the conference championship a few weeks ago, and that got us the bid into the tournament. So I would say not super, super involved, but definitely keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, just being, again, the noted alumni. What is it? Is it about the location as to why we have more than a handful of drivers that are alums of High Point? Is that it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll speak from my own experience. Sure. I was actually born in North Carolina in Mooresville when my dad was racing NASCAR, and then when I was quite young, we moved to Arizona, where most of my family's from the West Coast, and I grew up there in Arizona. But when I was looking to go to colleges, my grandpa and both my parents really wanted and put a lot of pressure on me. Even though you're doing all the racing stuff, we still want you to go get your degree. And I'd always been interested in business and, watched my grandpa succeed in business after his racing career, and that's something I always admired and wanted to follow myself. So at the time I was racing NASCAR stuff, and all of it's based out of the North Carolina, Mooresville, Charlotte area. And I was not opposed to going to school somewhere. And if you're going to do it, I might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone and move to where the hub of the NASCAR world was.
Yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense. And Jagger Jones joins us. I want to get to your father and grandfather and their obvious influence in your world of choice here, career-wise in racing, but I want to get to a couple of more things. And again, a graduate of High Point University, High Point and Purdue, coming up tomorrow, 12:40. That is round number 1 in Providence, Rhode Island, of the NCAA tournament. You're incredibly versatile here. Is there, open wheel, stock car? I mean, what do you? I guess now maybe more open wheel because you're involved in it. Did you have a favorite discipline in driving, or are you just like your dad or your grandfather? You'll drive anything from a lawnmower to a race car. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, basically, since I was a kid, it's been pretty much anything with 4 wheels. I grew up racing go-karts all across the U.S., in Europe, did a little bit of off-road racing, played around in the desert a lot growing up, rode some dirt bikes even as a kid. So for me, it's just been anything with wheels basically my whole life. And the way racing is going right now, it's a very, very tough sport to make it in any discipline of racing. It takes a lot of funding, a lot of money, a lot of people behind you, and opportunity is very limited. And my career, I think obviously I would have liked to, pick a path and stick with it and try to get to the top level of NASCAR or IndyCar or sports cars or whatever it is as fast as possible. But really, I've just, with my situation and not, coming from a family with $1 billion, I've had to just kind of take opportunities where they've came. And that led me from, the NASCAR world, then into the open world racing Indy next a little bit last year and in 2023. And then now really focused on the sports car opportunities that I've been given. And trying to make the most of every time I'm in a car.
Yeah, really, a friend of mine, Tony Donahue, used to produce this show, and both he and Kevin Lee, and Jackson really well, gave me a lot of background on you as well. It's as versatile as they come in terms of racing, and that you don't often find that, do you? Somebody that's good, you can hop out of one seat, get into another, and be as good as you were in that previous seat.
Yeah, it's definitely. It was a huge thing back in my grandpa's day. You see guys like AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti, Dan Gurney. Obviously, my grandpa racing anything with four wheels from Formula One, IndyCar. I know my grandpa was down racing for the Baja 1000, Trans Am, you name it. And I think that trend kind of went away as time went on, but now it's kind of the cool thing to do again. You see guys like Kyle Larson coming, wanting to race the Indy 500, racing, dirt sprint cars 3-4 times a week before he goes and races his cup car on Sunday. So I like that aspect coming back and just making true American race car drivers or even race car drivers from everywhere in the world. And I think the best of the best is going to shine in, no matter what car you put them in.
So I'm told that MX-5 Cup racing is pretty wild. How chaotic are those races?
Yeah, I've had an opportunity. The team that I race with in sports cars has some of those cars, and they've asked me to do a couple. I remember, I've seen the MX-5 stuff, but I never got into it at all when I was younger, and now doing it a little bit older, it's quite intense. A lot of these young kids, it's funny because I've done a lot of karting coaching over the years, and now I'm racing against a bunch of the kids that I coached in karting now in the MX-5 when I do it. And they're different animals, really. And it's a lot of drafting. We raced at Daytona in January, and it felt like you're in the Daytona 500 when you get onto the banking and you have to go down into the bus stop there on the back and then coming back. We're 4 wide, 4 rows deep, pushing each other. And it's pretty intense. And you're not in a super fast car, but it's definitely some of the most challenging racing I've done.
Yeah, I mentioned too, and this is Jagger Jones with us, a proud grad here recently of High Point University with High Point of Purdue, coming up in Providence, round number 1 of the NCAA tournament tomorrow at 12:40. So I got a text from Kevin Lee and said that you were Jackson's teammate for a few years. I'm a big fan of Jackson, big fan of Kevin as well. How'd those connections go as far as the driving to where you are now to where you were back then as a teammate?
Yeah, Jackson and Kevin are both great people, great family. And yeah, I had was teammates with Jackson in USF 2000 the first year. I jumped into open wheel racing. I guess that was 3 years ago now. And we had a good year that year. I think I ended up 4th in the championship, won a race my first year in open wheel. And I know Jackson had some good results too. And got to meet Kevin, the whole family that year, and they're definitely really good people.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We're as far as your schedule forthcoming, for anybody that would want to check you out, Jagger, how can they do that, or where you going to be? Just kind of lay out your schedule for folks, because this goes beyond, the basketball matchup tomorrow. I want to make sure people are in tune with you and get a chance to watch you. Where are you in the next month or so where people can watch you?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm racing the SRO America Championship. We race, our first race is April 26th at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and I'll be doing most of that season this year. We race in Indianapolis on the 8-hour SRO weekend there. I believe it's in October. So it'll be cool to be racing back at IMS later in the year. And then also, just focusing on other sports car opportunities that I'm working on now, hopefully some IMSA stuff later in the year. And the goal is to try to go and do the 24 hours of Le Mans next year sometime very shortly.
Jagger, I did want to bring this up too. The late Robin Miller was a very good friend and loved having him on this show, and he spent about 70% of the time talking about your grandfather. I mean, it is incredible, and I'm sure that the stories are endless and probably for you never get tired, do they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Robin passed before I started doing any of the open wheel stuff, and I remember I was probably 13 years old, and I was racing go-karts out at Newcastle. We came into town to race there, and we went over and did a interview with Robin, me and my brother. I think he was like 10 years old. I was 13. It's actually quite a funny video looking back now on YouTube. But I remember he asked me, where do you want to go? You want to go to NASCAR? You want to go to IndyCar? And I said NASCAR at the time because that's kind of where the goals were at the time. But and I think he was a bit disappointed in that answer. But now I'm pretty sure that he would be much more pleased that I went and did the Indy next and the open wheel stuff. And obviously I'd love to race the Indy 500 one day. And that's definitely on the bucket list. So hopefully to be there.
That is great. 1963 Indy 500 champion Parnelli Jones, and obviously your dad is PJ. Just some of the information he has passed along to you as well that you utilize in your racing career today.
Yeah, no, obviously my family's has had a huge impact. I mean, I've learned so much from my grandpa. Obviously, I didn't get to see him race at all because, by the time I was born, he was already past his racing career. But not only just what he's told me and about his experience, but I think also what I've really appreciated, especially in the last year with him passing away, just so many people coming up to me and telling me, their personal experiences with him off the racetrack and the time he spent with certain people when they felt like he had no reason or nothing in it for him to spend some time or go say hi to them at breakfast. And I think that stuff really touches me about him because, he was, amazing on the track, but he was a great person outside of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, just so loved. There's no doubt about that, too. And all those stories that R used to tell, the endless, incredible stories are fantastic. It's Jagger Jones with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you're going to be watching at 12:40 tomorrow, right? High Point in Purdue?
Yeah, absolutely. Rooting for the Panthers tomorrow. I know we're not the highest seed coming in, but hopefully some upsets will, keep us in there for a few rounds.
What'd you study at High Point, by the way?
I studied business administration and minored in finance and economics.
Wow. That sounds like a lot right there. That's way too much math for me.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of math. I was originally planning on just doing all finance, and the math with all the racing and traveling got a bit tricky, so try to focus more on the business stuff there. But it was a really good experience, and obviously racing, I think business and racing correlate so well together, especially in this day and age. I'm basically a marketing salesman trying to sell sponsorship and getting people to help me get to do what I love to do. So the connections there, it's a real life skills university, and they taught me so much. I mean, I think 4 years ago before I went there, I would struggle and to do an interview like this, but all the public speaking and different things has really helped me.
Awesome.
So it's definitely a great experience, and there's obviously a life after being a race car driver, and I think my time there will definitely help me in that aspect.
That's awesome right there, too. I'm assuming, too, Jagger is after Rolling Stones and not Maroon 5, right? Is that it?
Yeah, no, I was definitely born before the Maroon 5 song came out. I think it was like 5th grade, and that song came out, and it was probably all I heard about from anyone for like
it was like daily,
year.
like moves like Jag. Did you have to show everybody moves like Jagger back then?
My answer, I have absolutely zero dance moves, so my answer has always been I've got moves, but only on the race track.
Well done, buddy. Well done. Hey, it has been an absolute pleasure. And once you get back here, let's just say in the month of May, let's catch up again, okay?
Yeah, that will be awesome. Thank you guys for having me on.
You got it. Jagger Jones right there. He is noted driver. We'll be back here in the month of May. The grandson of Parnelli Jones, the son of P.J. Jones, and a graduate of High Point. High Point in Purdue tomorrow at 12:40. That was cool. Jagger Jones on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Let's take a break. We'll come back. A little bit of anything goes, and we'll get you to the Pacers and the Mavericks pregame show, 6:30 tonight from Gainbridge Fieldhouse with Pat Boylan. That is coming up a little bit later on. Back in studio tomorrow, Friday on the road. I will explain coming up next. Don't go anywhere. And your chance at Outlaw Music Festival tickets also before the end of this show. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Booby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
September will be the Outlaw Music Festival. You can find that at Ruoff Music Center. How about number 9 right now at 239-1070? I would love for you to go win these tickets. I believe that starts at around 3:30 in the afternoon, coming up in September later on this year. A great way to celebrate as we exit summer. I really don't want to think about exiting summer at this point, but that's what's going to be happening at the date of the Outlaw Music Fest, and it will be fantastic. We're talking about legendary talent, too. Sheryl Crow, Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson. And I always say this, you just never know when there's going to be a final opportunity, just if somebody decides to hang it up for good. So take advantage when you can, and take advantage of the opportunity to win tickets right now. The Outlaw Music Fest. Thank you, Live Nation, as always, for giving us that chance to give them away. 239-1070. Number 9 is going to be a winner. I know we have been so incredibly busy today. I have not neglected you purposely at 239-1070, so we'll try to get some of that back. Coming up with Anything Goes. That is in the 6 o'clock hour. A little Anything Goes. I think we're going to re-rack Chad as well before the Pacer game. Pacer general manager coming up here in the 6 o'clock hour. But I do have time for you at 239-1070. If you so desire, we would love to hear from you with a little bit of Anything Goes. I'd mentioned this in studio tomorrow, on the road on Friday with our friends from Zinc and Bud Light. The gang will all be there. Mini Hoops Mania underway at Brothers Downtown. Join us, because I'm telling you, you talk about a great deal to the winner of Mini Hoops Mania, Brothers Downtown. I mean, hell, we'll watch all the games on Friday, do some mini hoops, hang out at Brothers Downtown. Bud Light, Friday, Mini Hoops Mania, be there. And again, day number 2, round number 1 of the NCAA tournament at Brothers Downtown, along with Mini Hoops Mania and Bud Light coming up on Friday. Again, want to remind you of this. No doubt about the fact that MoyerFineJewelers.com has the greatest bracket contest ever for you locally. You've got Diamond Mania, or in this case, Diamond Madness, I should say. Diamond Madness for your chance to win a $5,000 diamond, courtesy of Moyer Fine Jewelers. That's in Carmel. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Make sure you get your bracket in before the start of tomorrow's games. And one more time, to Dan and to Joe and to Ashley and Leah and Lauren yesterday, just a job well done. And Megan and the fine people at the GOAT on the Monon in Carmel. It was such an outstanding day, and I cannot wait to do that again. But the focus was on the Diamond Madness Bracket Challenge, and it was great to see everybody out there. Absolutely fantastic. And here's hoping we do that again at some point up there, because it was an absolute blast. So the GOAT in Carmel on the Monon, and that is a place to be. Darren DeVries, the new head coach of IU. Conversations all about that. You guys are asking when he's going to be. Hell, I don't know. Like, if I'm on the clock right now, I'm waiting for the Pacers to get back to me on Obi from like 4 months ago, and then we'll see when IU gets a hold. We'll find out when. But I was actually trying to get either Scott Dolson or DeVries on the show, so we're in a holding pattern on both. Hopefully sooner rather than later. How about that? Hopefully tomorrow. Why can't we do tomorrow? High Point Purdue coming up tomorrow, 12:40. Chris Kramer a little bit earlier joined the show. We'll give you a show recap and some Anything Goes. In fact, about 6 minutes of Anything Goes at 239-1070 coming up on the other side. So join the show in about 6 or so minutes. Is that what we're thinking? No, I'm sorry, 11 minutes.
Yeah, 11 minutes.
11 minutes. I don't know what I was thinking then. 11 minutes of anything goes. Top of the hour, 239-1070. Do not go anywhere, and also be weather aware with the inbound storms. We can't really keep track of it eyeball-wise here, but we'll try to keep you informed, and that's why you're the eyes, the ears, and the information. You're kind of like our very own Matt Bear. Or you're kind of like a combination of Chris Wright and Matt Bear. Weather in terms of traffic and weather updates for you as we hit the 6 o'clock hour. Anything goes, 239-1070. You and me on the other side. Stay right there, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilots sit. But that's not important right now.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, who's up for it? About 11 minutes of anything goes? You're not crapped out right now, are you? Can you give it a go? Let us do this at 239-1070. I mean, hell, I haven't talked to you forever. All day it's been guest after guest after guest, so what the hell, might as well. Some anything goes. At 239-1070, we could talk IU new coach, Darren DeVries, if you want. I don't care how you feel about it. Let it be known. Mavericks Pacers later on tonight. Boilermakers High Point tomorrow. Got the final two of the first four tonight. What is that? Mount St. Mary's and American, followed by Xavier and Texas. Officially underway tomorrow. MoreYourFineJewelers.com. Just make sure you have your bracket in. Don't jack around with this. Be real. Can you imagine if you were to win this? $5,000 diamond. MoreYourFineJewelers.com. I'll remind you on social media tomorrow, but I mean, hell, it's the last time I can remind you on the air, so do it. A bucket should be on the show coming up tomorrow, I would imagine, after High Point and Purdue play. Then on Friday, Brothers downtown with Bud Light, Mini Hoops Mania. Pacers Mavericks coming up later on tonight. We'll recap tomorrow, or I should say recap that tomorrow as well. Yeah, we have a lot going on, to say the least. All right, 239-1070. Some anything goes for the now next, what is it, about 9 or so minutes? We'll take you up to Chad Buchanan, our conversation, and then Pacer pregame, Mavericks, Pacers. We'll get you started at the bottom of the hour. 239-1070. James, give me Fulton, who's got big news. Fulton, you're always full of big news.
Yes, I do have big news, John.
What is it, Fulton?
I got a call from the Indianapolis Colts, and I am the winner for the Indianapolis Colts, and I'll be in the Hall of Fame this year on April 26th.
The Hall of, what is it? What Hall of Fame are we talking about here, buddy?
I entered the contest, and I'm the winner for the Hall of Fame for this year.
You are. That means,
Yes,
do you get to go to the Hall of Fame? What do you get out of this?
They're gonna take pictures of me and put a poster on me.
Are they going to allow you to, before a game next season, play September on your ukulele?
They sure will.
Well, I can't wait for that. Like, we're all getting tickets for Earth, Wind, and Fire to see you on stage.
Yeah.
All right, the Hall of Fame winner. I've got to know some more of these details on this Hall of Fame stuff too. It seems like the world of Fulton is absolutely popping.
Yes, it is.
Right.
But I have the email tomorrow, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
When do you play basketball again?
We play this Saturday at Chapel Hill. Our first game starts at 11 in the morning, and if we win our first game, we'll play the second game at 2 p.m. against Boone County.
All right, 40 points, 40 rebounds, and 40 passes. You got that in you?
Yep, I do.
Oh, buddy. All right. Well, hey, congratulations with the Colts. I'm going to find out more about that. You let us know, okay?
I sure will, John.
Man, Fulton right there. Everything's going Fulton right now. Although, one thing that didn't go Fulton, he was supposed to come by yesterday, and I don't think he had a ride.
Yeah, he
that was
didn't
not
end up
going.
coming
That
by.
part wasn't going Fulton.
I mean, you can't win them all.
No, I mean, and that was a great spot. Have you ever been to the Goat in
I
Carmel?
have not. No.
Man, that's a kick-ass place. Who's all been to the Goat out there? Do you guys like the Goat as much as I do? I'm speaking volumes about the Goat. I know what you're saying. Well, you go anywhere and you can drink and you'd love it. Well, while that is true, because I'm the Pied Piper, I go and the party follows. Yes, I can celebrate anywhere, and I celebrate everywhere, but that was a kick-ass establishment for the first time. By the way, Megan, one of the co-owners, the pride of McCutcheon High School, as I found out yesterday. But no, seriously, you got Dan Moyer, Joe Moyer, Lauren, Ashley, and Leah. What a great time with Moyer Fine Jewelers yesterday at the Goat. We absolutely have to do that again. Dusty May, Michigan head coach, a little bit earlier. Michigan gets ready for San Diego in Denver coming up tomorrow night. And podcast with Dusty May, the champion of the Big Ten Conference Tournament, back on Sunday. Joined us a little bit earlier, too. Meantime, 239-1070, anything goes. And Josh on line 2. Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great, Josh. Go ahead.
I just want to talk about the Pacers and what they did 2 nights ago. I know it's getting ready for a new game and all, but
oh, good. Talk it up.
I mean, come on. What besides, I think Cleveland, what other NBA team could not have their 5 starters and actually compete with anybody? That tells a lot about that team.
I guess what is somewhat ironic about it is, and I mentioned this to Chris Denari yesterday when he was on, the bench had not been playing well.
No.
So I think we were even more in doubt of that matchup going into Monday, with especially the way the bench played. But they got outstanding contributions. And, it's, you know, you look at a guy like Bradley. I think that you can maybe find – maybe I'm wrong about this because I know the times get squeezed. But he has, to me, a skill set that this team needs. He can he adds some rebounding that they don't have. I don't know how often he's going to get clocked. When certainly Miles is back and you have Thomas Bryant backing up, but I thought he was outstanding on Monday night in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I was watching the game with my dad, and every time you looked up, Brown block shot, Brown tip in, Brown rebound. I mean, it was like one of those things where you go, okay, if you were a betting man, who's going to have the odd game where they just shine? And he would have been one of them.
Hey, Josh, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
You got to thank you for the call. I appreciate that. I mentioned this, too, and it's half-assed and jest and half now. I'm going to tell you what. I don't know if this is just – we love Alex Golden and setting the pace, don't we, James? But, man, does he have some jackasses to follow that thing. My God. Some jackasses that wouldn't know basketball if it came up and hit them right in the crotch. Seriously.
You guys kind of have that in common. You have some Twitter followers that like to put their foot in their mouth.
Don't know squat. God. There is one jackass. It's just all over McConnell. And granted, McConnell has had some struggling games. But his career's not over, jackasses. The worst player in the league? Yeah, stuff like that. 3. Is that line 3 or 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Chad Buchanan's re-rack coming up here, too?
Chad Buchanan.
Hey, I know it's anybody and everybody, but, man. Jackassery ensued. Hopefully, they're able to maintain as well. I just don't want to see them trip against a team. And you get the makeup of this team in Dallas. These are the games in which the Pacers have had consistent struggles against. Don't let it happen tonight. We'll talk to Chad about that coming up in just a minute. Paul's up next on Anything Goes. Hello, Paul.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Paul, I'm outstanding.
The other day, a little quick on the was talking about the thing I wanted to talk about. What you were just talking about was that was great about the Pacers the other night. That was like when Reggie Miller used to go to Spike Lee and stuff. I thought it was that good, but no, man. I hope they keep it up. And who are they playing tonight? I don't even know.
The Mavericks tonight, Paul.
Mavericks. All right, great. And when I was talking to you, I know on the other day on the Colts, if they get all their stuff together like they're talking about, that'd be great. Get a better defense.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers is not going to get as hurt and the other guy they got. So if they get all that going, that'd be great. Hopefully that'll keep up.
Hey, I'm reminded of who Paul is right now. You're the guy that goes all over the map, aren't you? I like it.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I was talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which I'd love to go see sometime, or if they get a Cheap Trick. But hey, that Outlaw thing, that sounds great. Now you're giving. Is that like an hour, or pretty soon you're going to go?
No, we already did it. You'll have to wait until tomorrow. The tickets have been given away for today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What time tomorrow should I call for
What
those?
do you think, James? Tomorrow, let's give Paul an opportunity here. What time?
What tickets is he trying to get?
Outlaw.
I'd say probably 5 o'clock or
around.
Actually, probably 5:50.
How about 5:50 tomorrow? We'll give you a chance, Paul.
Great, man. Great. That sounds good. That'll be good. Well, hope the Pacers will keep it up. And I forgot who the Pacers were playing last Sunday, but they said you were there. Didn't you say you saw Reggie was out there?
Yeah, it was going back to last Tuesday. That's
right,
against the Bucks.
Tuesday.
Yeah, last Tuesday against. Hey, Paul, I got to run here, but yeah.
All right, man. Hey, you do
Paul,
a great job.
Thank you, buddy.
And
I
have
like
to get up to Moyer Jeweler. That thing tomorrow ends too. What
you got it. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Paul's all over the map, and I absolutely love it. That's perfect for anything goes. Pacers, bottom of the hour, busy day today, and a part of the new head coach down in Bloomington conversation and Pacers as well. Chad Buchanan joined us a little bit earlier today, the Pacer general manager, to talk that up. Yes, exactly.
I'm out on the road doing a little scouting, so a lot of stuff going on this time of year, as you can imagine. But I'm at an NIT game tonight out on the road.
Yeah, you guys can't I talked to Greg Lansing a little bit earlier on the show, and he was talking about being at a couple of conference tournaments, and you guys can't mention a damn thing. You can tease us a little bit about what you're watching, but you just can't say who you're watching, right?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Let's just say there's a few games going on this time of year that we like to attend.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, everybody in the state of Indiana now involved in basketball has to be from the state of Iowa. You are one of those as well. Where do we start with your background knowledge here before we get to the Pacers that match up with Dallas tonight with Darren DeVries, the new head coach down in Bloomington?
Yeah, I've known Darren for a really long time. I remember him as a player at Northern Iowa, and then I coached against him for 1 year when I was assistant at Drake, and he was at Creighton. As a player, he was a very heady, tough-minded point guard. You could see future coach written all over him as you watched him and scouted him and played against him. And, comes from a, athletic family, great family. I think the world of Darren. And I knew at some point he was going to find a big-time job. And not that West Virginia isn't, but obviously Indiana is, one of the blue bloods of college basketball. And I have the utmost respect for Darren. I think he's going to do a terrific job down there in Bloomington.
Have you had an opportunity to speak with him at all here recently?
We exchanged texts yesterday, and as well as, throughout the season, I stay in touch with him and, follow his team, and, he follows the Pacers. And so we stay connected, pretty closely. And I've got several friends that I'm close with that have worked for Darren over the years. And it's a circle of Iowa basketball ties that we all stay kind of in touch with each other throughout the season.
It's Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager. Mavericks Pacers later on tonight at the Fieldhouse. I'll get to that with him in just a second, but we'll tie a bow on this Darren DeVries conversation since he knows him as well as he does. I'm curious, you as a player, he as a player, who was better?
Definitely him. If you were to relate us to NBA players, he was probably a max contract, and I was a G League Exhibit 10 contract. So that's how I would compare our talents.
But I knew, and obviously his son has got a great level of talent too. And I saw that firsthand when I was over last year at Arch Madness and watching that guy tear my Sycamores a new one, unfortunately, in that championship game. I want to ask this as well. Historically speaking, you spent some time at Drake as well. He spent a lot of time there. I think for the most part, most seasons was a 20-plus game winner as head coach at Drake. What is that environment like, and what are the fans up there like with that basketball program? I guess, what is their signature at Drake?
Well, it's the only team in town, they call it, in Des Moines. And, it's a small campus. It's a lot like Butler, right in the heart of, right off of downtown Des Moines. And, they had some great history. They went to the Final Four way long time ago. And then the program was kind of in a tough spot. It couldn't generate any momentum. they didn't have their own facility on campus. Eventually they built, it's called the Knapp Center on campus, and then they just couldn't find maybe the right coach to get the momentum going. And then the AD there, Brian Harden, ended up hiring, Dr. Tom Davis out of retirement, and that's when I was on the staff, and it kind of generated some excitement around the program. And his son took over, Keno Davis, after Dr. Tom retired, and they had a terrific season at the NCAA tournament, lost on a horrific buzzer-beating shot against Western Kentucky. And then it, went through a couple coaches after that. Then when they hired Darren, there was a lot of excitement because he was an Iowa guy, coming from a very, very successful program at Creighton. He worked for Dana Altman and Coach McDermott, two high-level coaches. I think there was a lot of excitement of what could it be, and he delivered. I mean, he delivered with terrific teams every season he was there. His teams played both sides of the ball. They were very disciplined, and it generated a lot of excitement around that program. And it's still, carried through, with the new coach they have now, Ben McCollum, this season. Obviously, they're in the tournament. And so the fans in Des Moines are really behind that program. I think it can be traced back to Dr. Tom, but then Darren really took it to another level.
It's Chad Buchanan with us. The team that made it to the Final Four way back when, was there a player on it named Bill Hahn? Do you recognize that name?
Oh, boy, I don't know. There might have been, though.
Yeah, because I believe he was a part of that. He was for one season my coach. He's no longer with us. He was my coach my senior year in high school. And I think he coached, if memory serves, Dan Palambizio at Michigan City Rogers back in the 80s, who went on and played at Purdue. Mrs. Sinawa, I believe, he was a coach as well. He really won a lot of games. We didn't win a lot when he was our coach as a senior. He thought I was too fat.
I'll have to go check the VHS tapes of your video, of your high school clips.
That's what he thought. Hey,
I know you're not now today. You don't qualify as fat today.
I'm telling you. I'm changing. I am turning back the clock right here. Right here and right now, buddy. So
I know you. I hear you're tearing off the rims at Southport High School.
Crazy. Yeah, they get mad over there. They don't like me to mention it anymore because I play so much over there and play so well over there. They don't want me to overshadow the program. So I get that. I understand. Hey, tell the fellas not to give anything back later on tonight because that was such an incredible win on Monday night, given the personnel that was available and how that game went down into overtime. And you don't want to give it back. Listen, I know that any team, any night, whatever, but tonight against Dallas, I just don't want to see them give that back because that was such a great night in Minneapolis Monday night.
I hear you on that. That was one of the most memorable wins I've ever experienced in the NBA for what our guys, to have so many guys down and you lose a couple guys in the course of the game. And, I know everybody talks about the last shot Obi made, but gosh, there were he made some other shots that were huge buckets for us. TJ had a big bucket. Jarris had a big bucket. We got a couple stops at the end. Like there were so many great things that happened that night with the guys that contributed, even down to Tony Bradley and Enrique Freeman, contributing to that win. So that was a really feel-good win at the time of year where guys could have just mailed it in, say, hey, we're down a bunch of guys. We're on the road. This team's won 8 in a row. They're healthy. And to our coaches' credit, all of our coaching staff, all of our players, they came to compete and came to fight. And we got big, and then, they come back, and it could have easily been like, okay, this is what, tonight's going to be, and just mail it in and come home for a homestand. But so much credit and so much pride in the whole group of what they did on Monday night.
How much did you scout up Bradley before you ended up having him sign with the program here? How long did you take for that?
Well, we've seen him, throughout the years in college and in the NBA. He had a couple stops. And then, I credit our analytics staff, head by Spencer Anderson. He's been kind of pushing for Tony Bradley all season. Obviously we're looking for a center a couple times this year. And, Spencer and Brady Baker, our analytics staff, have really been, consistent. Like, hey, let's take a look at this guy. His numbers are really popping in the G League. For him to come in and do what he did, the other night, it's another feel-good story for him. And he stayed ready, and that's hard as a 10-day. You're coming in, you're joining everybody in the middle of the race, and you probably don't know everybody around in the locker room very well. And he's blended in very, very seamlessly and was ready when his name got called, and he produced. So super happy for Tony.
Chad, he looks like a piece that to me can be utilized. Given the shortcomings we know this team to have rebounding, and listen, this is not an original thought because others were saying it as well. In that game Monday night, I know it's just one game or whatever, but he was rebounding outside of his area. And that is not something you always see with this particular group, and that looks like a useful skill set that can be utilized here with some clock maybe down the stretch. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're spot on with that. He was doing that in the G League, and I think the one thing you can say about Tony is he can look himself in the mirror and know, here's the two things that I do well, and I'm going to stick to these two things because I know these two things can help a team, win on a given night. I'm not going to step outside my box and, try to shoot threes or play off the dribble or, demand post-ups, things like that. He screens, he moves the ball, he crashes the glass, he finishes plays that other people create for him. And he goes after the ball, on both sides of the glass, which is something this team has needed. And it was great to see it translate into a game. Whether it's, translates into, more games, you never know. You never know when his opportunity will come. If Miles is healthy, he's probably not going to have much opportunity. But the other night, he got it and took the full advantage of it.
Hey, my mom went absolutely crazy on Obi's night. Crazy. Screaming everything at me after the game. So...
Well, good for her staying up that late to watch that shooting display Obi gave her.
She does not miss a second for one, but she called right after the game and was screaming so much I had to hang up on her. I couldn't even understand what she was saying. And then she kind of settled down, and I called her back, and she goes, "He's so nice. He's such a nice guy." I said, "Yeah, really nice that he puts up 34 like that and hits the game winner. That's really nice too." So yeah.
Yeah, had to feel good for Obi the other night. That was a pretty incredible display of shooting down the stretch by him.
Yeah, he is I will say this. I mean, he is the perfect type of guy coming off the bench and the perfect type of guy for this team. Just blends so well and is legitimately a really nice guy. There's no doubt about that. All right, you're not in town today, right?
I'm not. I'm out on the road the next couple of days, so seeing some games.
You got it. We will.
I'm putting you in charge of getting us a win tonight.
Well, I'm there. So, I just don't give it back because I'll get all pissy and have to cuss tomorrow. I don't want to do that. All right?
Hey, I hear you, but at 82 games, anything can happen on any given night. So
don't give me the 82-game stuff, man. This is stretch run here. Come on now. Come on.
I hear you.
Flex.
I hear you. Gotta be consistent. I hear you.
Hey, stay in touch, man. Safe travels on the road. We'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate it, John.
It's JMV for Premier Weight Loss. I am down 75 pounds since the middle of summer and feeling fantastic thanks to Thomas and the gang at Premier Weight Loss. The two Indy area locations, Northside and in Fishers at pwlindy.com. March is a fantastic month to get involved because right now you can save $89 on that initial appointment. It is just $10. So hoops and weight loss month of March is perfect for you. $10 for that initial appointment at Premier Weight Loss. And by the way, if you're on a compounded semaglutide or compounded tirzepatide and you want to switch to the FDA-approved medications, Premier Weight Loss can help, and they offer great prices. That's Thomas and Premier Weight Loss today, pwlindy.com to learn more. That's pwlindy.com. Premier Weight Loss.